once again. Welcome back to episode 111 of the Northeast Corner. Another guest today. We're on a bit of a roll here. I might get accused of podcast guest money laundering at this point, because today we have a football coach, a podcaster, a former support worker. To be honest, one of the best people you'll meet in my eyes. But I'm not going to speak about myself any longer. We've also got Lee Stewart from the Football Journals in here.
Thank you very much.
I take it that jokes went over your head there.
Yes, it has. It has.
Have you just done an awkward pause on me on purpose?
No, I've not. I'm just wondering if that's a form of nepotism. This
quite possibly. But excuse me for a moment, mate, because since you have not left the Northeast Corner, but are focusing on other roles at the moment, we have an ad read to do, or I have an ad read to do.
I'm quite jealous, actually.
You know what? I'm feeling a bit of pressure for this. Like I said, I'm buzzing off my tits on coffee right now, so not the best kind of circumstances to do it, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So 2 seconds, mate. The news you have all been waiting for. The Northeast Pipe Band concert is back. Hosted by the Bucksburn and District Pipe Band at Aberdeen Music Hall on the 27th of April 2024. Featuring bands such as St Lawrence O'Toole. The last time St Lawrence O'Toole played in Aberdeen was on the 27th of April 2013. 11 years on, the 27th of April 2024, a concert named Inspired in Aberdeen, Scotland will mark the second major concert. The 2024 concert will once again take place in the newly renovated venue and facilities of Aberdeen Music Hall. Bucksburn are excited to have Alan, Stephen and the band in Aberdeen for the 9th concert. A venture that started as a one-off event back in 2010, this indoor pipe band gathering where pipers, drummers, families, friends and supporters gather for a start of a new season where old and new stories are shared, new friendships made and old friendships reignited, along with some exciting special guests to be announced at a later date. The concert will have a mixture of traditional and contemporary music that will keep the audience entertained throughout the night. Once again, Bucksburn look forward to another amazing pipe band event in the heart of the city and will continue to keep this venture alive with the exciting top Grade 1 bands entertaining the captive audience. Now, to get tickets and find out more about this event in general, please go to www.aberdeenperformingarts.com, and if you want to follow Bucksburn and District Pipe Band on Facebook, you can follow them at Bucksburn and District Pipe Band on Facebook, all lowercase, no spaces, and you can also see the Lighthouse Podcast Studio logo on the programme for this amazing event. Thank you to Bucksburn and District Pipe Band and Gus McCaskill for this opportunity to have our studio logo on a programme for such a massive local event. Do you know how many times I tried to read that last night and I couldn't get...
That was pretty good, mate. I'll give you that. I couldn't have done that in one blast. See, when I'm doing my intros and things like that, I fuck up all the time. You record my intros, I'm like, no, fuck that.
Yeah, I guess maybe the coffee's the way to go from now on, anxiety beforehand, but alertness in the moment.
There's me trying not to swear in this podcast, and I'm just blowing it in the first 3 sentences. Really sorry.
Anyway, so yeah, thanks Gus and thanks Bucksburn and District Pipe Band for your support for the time being. But anyway, let's get into it, mate. Why football coaching? I done a Craig Christian asked you to send me across the questions. You did, yeah.
But I was just genuinely, so I wasn't leaving us any awkward silences or anything, thinking on the spot. That was the only reason why. Probably because I'm not very good at football.
Going for the Jose Mourinho.
Yeah. I'm not very good at football. I'm not going to deny that. But I've got some interesting ideas on football, and I still want to be very much involved in the game.
You're very engaged in it, even the first time I met you when we used to just talk about football as mates, you're very deep dive into the entire sport. Was it something that is it something that's been a recent kind of thought of yours, or has it always been a thought of yours and the opportunity's just presented itself the last year or so?
No, I've always wanted to do something. I was never good enough to play. I was never even good enough to play probably welfare football, if I'm going to be honest with you. I can do a lot of keepy-ups. I'm very good when I've not got anyone putting any pressure on me, if you know what I mean. And I don't mean that people watching me pressure. I mean if there's no defenders around me, I can do quite a lot of trickery stuff with my feet and that, and I'm quite confident on the ball, but just put me in a game situation and I just freeze. sorry, what was your original question?
Why football coaching?
Yeah, I suppose if we're going back, I played Championship Manager religiously.
A classic.
Yeah, 2000 and it wasn't even the 0102. I played the 2000 to 2001 version. That was my first like proper version of it, and yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed managing teams. And then as the games have got more advanced, it gets more about coaching teams, and really enjoyed that. And then I kind of took up coaching with the boys' league last year, and as strange as this sounds, right? And I don't want to put myself down, because Carrie says like you're putting yourself down by saying this. It's the first thing I've ever felt I'm really good at in my life. Like, if that makes sense. Like, like there's things that I've enjoyed and things that people see me as other good at, but I've never felt like, right, this is my thing. But now I think I've got it. I think, right, this I'm actually really good at this.
A sense of belonging, perhaps?
Not even that, just a sense of worth, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to harp on a dark side, but like I had a pretty crappy time over the last couple of years, and I've kind of found my little thing that's my shining light, if you know what I mean. And it's been really good for me in that sense. I
think it's like something that we all want to find, right? That passion, I guess, right? Because regardless of it, you're doing something you don't like or doing something that you do like, there is tough times in life, and I suppose it's what's worth doing to like put up with that and get through those things. You know what I mean? So so how did the boys' league opportunity come about, mate? Because I was aware it was this time last year, kind of really.
This time last year, yeah. Well, episode 1 of my football journals, Luke. He'd been coaching in the league, and he'd actually been trying to get me down the year before, and I just had a bit much on with work and COVID, and I just bought a house and things like that, and we were trying to do up the house, and finally found a bit of time, and I thought, right, I'm going to give it a crack this year. And it's, well, you know how much I tried to speak on about this on earlier episodes. It's fascinating. I love it, absolutely love it. We're waiting to have a meeting on Monday about our selection for this year's. Again, I've been getting involved with school football, getting involved with the Gleaner and things, so I've got a much better knowledge of the kids now and things like that, which helps, you know, if you're trying to bring through local football. But yeah, with the boys' league, turned up to a meeting, AGM, expected to help Luke take a team, and then turns out Dominic was taking a team of him, and there were short of coaches, and Alan's somebody I'm going to get on the football journals, because he's a very interesting guy. He's really interesting. Bit of a character, like, but he was just like, oh, do you want to take a team? I was like, I felt like for a moment, I was 7 years old in front of the teacher, and just like, yeah. So
inside you're hearing no.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I came back, and my missus was like, so how did it go? Are you taking a team? I was like, no, I'm taking a team. And then I started booking training sessions. I started making group chats with parents, and it just turned out to be one of the most positive experiences I've ever done in my life. And from that, things have snowballed into what they are now.
I suppose, like, you've been, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you've been thrown in the deep end a little bit, but I think that's probably a good thing when it comes to this environment, I guess. Like, obviously, I'm not an expert in it. Funny you mentioned Dominic, because for me, it's a small world, right? No matter what, like, where you are in the world. But I remember I came across his YouTube channel. This is before we were even aware that he lived in this area. And I remember saying to you, this guy from Leeds has had Graham Tatters on his like podcast. Like, it's like so random. Like,
I'm now his assistant manager.
Now you're his assistant manager, because you told me, I think it was around this time last year. It was like, oh, that guy that we were talking about, he lives here, and I was like, oh, that makes more sense for the whole, you know, Graham Tatters being on the podcast. Because I was like, why would someone like based in Leeds be? I know Graham Tatters is from like the northwest of England, random. But at the time I was like, what the hell? Like, because it was after the likes of he's had the football manager Zealand, the YouTuber
Anne Hegarty,
and then there was Graham Tatters, and I was like, just such a left field turn. But obviously he's been like a massive kind of part of your not only your development, but like helping you along and getting you opportunities and stuff like that as well.
Dominic's. It's weird, like there's 15 years of age difference between us, and like I consider myself quite a young guy, so to put that into context for people living, I'm 32 years old and Dominic's 17, and we just click, we just get on, and we've got very similar ideas with football. Not like he made a decision last night that I wasn't happy about, and I told him how much he effed up. He wasn't. You could tell by the tone of my text. But I says, look, I'm your assistant manager. I trust your decision. I did trust his decision. His decision worked out well last night, and but that's another matter for another day. But no, he's been huge. He's also quite a funny guy as well. Like we kind of bounce off each other a little bit, and it's weird. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Well, you've probably never seen it. A 17-year-old be stern with a group of guys in their 30s and 40s. It's like, it's a different level of respect. Like, he doesn't shout at them or anything like that, but they fucking listen to him. And like, when he's pissed off, you can tell he's pissed off with the guys. When he's happy with the guys, you can tell he's happy with the guys, I've learned a lot with him. Robbie as well. Like, Robbie's I don't want to shit on Dominic a bit, but I probably learned 10 times more for Robbie, but just because Robbie's got more experience than Dominic.
Yeah, that's just to be expected, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
What's it like being an assistant manager now? Because I suppose in a way, even though you're involved, you're having to take a little bit more of a back seat in a way. Is that frustrating? Are you someone that just wants to go, dive in?
Took it right out of my mouth, yeah. I've struggled to not have full control of the situation, if you know what I mean. It's something I'm going to I've got Stefan Laird coming on, football journalist, and it's something I'm going to ask him how he deals with it, because it's not something I'm struggling with, but it's something I'm maybe not managing to adjust too well to, without treading on other people's toes, if you know what I mean, and disrespecting Dominic, for example, or people within the team. I'm quite old school with the way I do things, and Dominic's quite new school. That's the biggest difference between us. I'm quite a disciplinarian, and Dominic's quite lenient with people, and
that must complement each other in a way, though, right?
It does a little bit, but it's normally the other way around in football situations. Your assistant manager is normally your lenient one. He's normally the one of the boys, and the manager's normally
the authority figure. Yeah, totally.
So it's a bit of a different one. Plus, this is Dominic's first management role. This is my first assistant management role. We actually picked up our first ever win last night.
Awesome, man.
So 17-2.
17-2.
17-2.
What a win to get.
Yeah, we weren't playing the strongest opposition, and the guys that were playing, like, I got to take my hat off them because they didn't give up. But we'd went 7 games without a win. Team had just started up in the summertime, and yeah, we were getting close. We were running proper welfare teams down for 70 minutes, and we're just a team of amateurs that play friendlies. We don't play in a league, we don't play in the cups. We just get hold of teams. Do you want a game? And we just got guys that turn up, and we pick the best players. We held a team in the welfare league for 70 minutes, 0-0. We were all over them. We got tired and we got beat 2-1. It's things like that.
Yeah.
It's hard fought losses. But we are a development squad. We cater to a performance squad. So Robbie he's in charge of performance squad. Dominic and myself have got the development squad. He'll take our better players. If his players are needing game time, they'll drop down and play for us. So there's a pool of probably about 40 or 50 players that we play all together.
And it keeps guys in the game as well, which is a great thing, right? Because I suppose it's still the same at bigger clubs, but there's a lot of teams like, Manchester United, I'm sure Manchester City, like the highest of echelon, well, maybe not Manchester United at the moment, but like once upon a time, your Liverpool's and that, where guys get let go because they're not seen at that level, but like they don't get a new club instantly. Do you know what I mean? Like, where there is some clubs that fight if they deem someone not, up to their standard or up to what they're looking for, they will find them another club, and I think that is a really healthy cycle for the football pyramid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've also created a very good club culture down at the Sports Community Trust. Like, we've got a young guy, you won't mind me mentioning him on here, Aidan. Aidan was a Elgin City under-18s prospect until, I'm going to say, the summertime. Aidan just started training with us. The guys won't disagree, he's one of the top 3 players in the team. You can tell he's had youth training at a club and things like that, because it's just how he plays the game and that. But there's word that there's Elgin City youth starting back up again, and Aidan's choosing to play for us just now. So it just kind of shows that the way we run the club, and we're all quite positive guys. We had a very unpositive game a few weeks ago, and Robbie won't mind me saying this either. He let me and Dominic and our team know exactly what the club stands for, and he didn't want to see any of that behaviour again, and I've kind of taken my lesson quite sternly, and I've taken that forward with every session so far.
I mean, like, I suppose, like, you're learning on the job, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, no, I'm not going to call it setbacks, but you are going to go through these experiences that you learn from, right? Like, and that can be a frustrating thing because we all want to get to, you know, not the finish line, but where we, in our mind, where we want to go as quick as possible, right? It's just, especially with like stuff like social media now, I think impatience is, you know, and I can say it to myself as well, do you know what I mean? Like with stuff that I want to achieve, I'm expecting it to like happen overnight when it's like not the case at it. Like it's a lot of consistency, hard work, and perseverance.
That's it. Yeah, perseverance is the biggest one. Just sticking at it. Like I've got four football teams actually. I coach a school team. I coach Elgin Sports Community Trust. I'm coaching the boys league. And I can't say too much, but I can say that I'm actually away to start with Elgin City youth. I've not discussed terms with them yet, but I've certainly been offered by the new head of youth entry into their setup, which I'm quite looking forward to. So I like to spread myself widely, but it's also a lot of going to games when nobody wants to go to games, turn up to training sessions when I've got four guys. You know, it's perseverance and it's trying to get my systems, my ideas across on the pitch just by constantly being there, constantly turning up and having a good attitude about it.
And there's also great things, not outside of football, the Gleaner and ESCT and that, but your most recent guest on the Football Journal as well, the one that's released, Devin was talking about like Murray Mental Health Football Club and stuff like that, which is obviously a massive success.
Huge.
And does a lot for probably not just guys getting down and getting some exercise in and playing football, but obviously for people's well-being and stuff like that, which is crucial these days.
The team we played last night they're called Murray Active Recovery, and it's for Robbie would be able to explain it better than me because I'll get him to speak about it when he's on the Football Journals, but it's for maybe some guys that have had a bit of a harder time in life or that, and they just get together every Tuesday afternoon for a game of football. And last night, that was potentially some of their first ever 11-a-side games, and they were great. They scored the best goal out of the whole 19 goals last night at the end. It was a 30-yard curler, top bins, and you should have seen the way they celebrated it. It was really nice to see, you know, and it's just things like that. You say the Murray Mental Health. I think they had a game against Dr. Gray's last Friday, raised over £1,000. It was at Grant Park. I think there was only about 40 people there, but
hey,
you know, that'll do, man.
£1,000 is £1,000, man.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Especially in like the times we're in with like cost of living crisis and all that type of stuff. But it's so like I suppose that kind of your path through ESCT, how have you kind of progressed? Obviously you're the assistant manager now. I know you were doing a lot of coaching with Dominic. Have you all kind of progressed together? I know the guy that you're always mentioning, Matthew, he's obviously took a step away recently, but he was in that kind of contingent of you as well. Have you all kind of progressed together?
Yeah, there's about I'm going to say 10 or 12 of us all together. I'm the oldest by a mile, apart from Robbie. Sorry, Nicky's older than me, but Nicky's the goalkeeper coach and just coaches the adults team, so he doesn't do any of the kids or that. Youngest would be about 16, I think. Riley's our youngest guy. We're all kind of we're all on our own little path, I suppose. There's a few guys there through Murray College, doing their placements and things. Got like Dominic and Brandon and Matthew, who are not Matthew who's walked away. We've got another Matthew as well. The three of them actually work at the facility. They do everything from coaching to ground maintenance to picking up litter to just everything you can imagine.
All matters though, right?
Yeah, everything. And then you've also got like myself who is trying to break into football. I was just literally looking for somewhere to coach. Dominic knew Robbie was looking for a coach, had experienced me coaching in the boys league, recommended me, and it's just kind of taken from there. But I've went from coaching one youth session on a Sunday morning to now I run the Sunday morning session myself. I normally have an assistant coach with me. I've got assistant manager of the adult squad on a Sunday night, and then if they need help throughout the week, I'm normally available as well. So,
how intimidated were you taking your first session by yourself? Well, not by yourself, but as like the leader, I guess. Because I take it you've got to structure the training and like kind of...
Yeah, so we use a model called Curver coaching. It's a Dutch model.
Okay.
Structured into your first 15 minutes about ball mastery.
All right,
so
okay.
I'll run you very quickly through a Curver. Curver is all about creating a very good individual player. We don't work on teamwork, apart from the last 10 minutes of our session. Everything's about creating a good individual, skillful player, like the Dutch model. That's pretty much what it is. First 15 minutes is ball mastery. It's skills with ball at your feet. It can be games, but we try to have the ball at the kids' feet. We then go into a bit of speed work, speed and movement, speed and quickness. We then do a group play session. So that can be anything from, that doesn't have to involve a football. That can be tag. You know, I don't do tag. I will involve a football normally in mine. I'll do a very advanced rondo, a 3v3v3, something like that. And then we always finish off a game, because I've recently learned from Stefan Laird, who will be coming on through watching his sessions. He says no matter if they're adults, no matter if they're kids, no matter if they're toddlers, no matter if they're walking football, everyone loves a game at the end of their session.
100%, yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Intimidated by my first session? No, I wasn't. I was intimidated by my first boys league coaching session, because I'd never coached before. I was really intimidated by that, and I'd never met the kids before. Whereas by the time I'd coached in the boys league for a few months and I'd attended the Gleaner, I started to know a couple of the kids and things like that, and they knew me or knew of me. And then it just became familiar. But I feel like it comes very naturally to me. I don't, even just jumping into the adults, I wasn't intimidated. It's like this. No, I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. So if you don't want to get on board, then there's other teams to go to.
Yeah, man, totally. Right. So I want to know so there's three things here. What is the best thing about being a football coach first that you found so far?
Yeah. Probably the appreciation from the kids. I like the appreciation from the parents, and that's very nice, but the appreciation from the kids means a lot. There was a kid in my boys league team, Jack, last year. I actually made him my vice captain. Jack's actually been coaching Seafield Primary School with me this year.
Oh, no way. That's awesome, man.
As a first year. So he's in school. I got hold of his guardian and says, would Jack be interested in helping me coach the primary school? So Jack actually helps me coach the primary school, because he's just so... You don't have to ask Jack to do anything twice. He just, Jack, can you go and do that? Yep. Can you do that? Yep.
Which is a very unique skill set for someone of that young age to
yeah,
have at that point
he's
in time.
13.
Yeah.
You know? But he came up to me last year and he gave me a card, maybe 2 or 3 games from the end of the boys league, and I think it's the first time I've been emotional watching Celtic and things like that. Plenty of times, but in actual football, it was the first time I got emotional, because he gave me a card. It was just a thank you, and I got a wee keyring. I've still actually got it on my keys in my pocket.
I think you put it up on Facebook as well.
I did,
didn't you?
yeah. That actually
yeah.
meant quite a lot. Like, and it's little things like that they're awesome. Like,
awesome, man. Okay, flipping it. What's the worst thing so far?
Parents. Parents.
Not all parents, but
Not all parents.
Certain characters, right?
I'm going to say about 95% of my parents have been brilliant. Had a really good relationship, but the parents that think their kid deserves picked when their kid's not got a good attitude.
Yeah.
Parents who, because we haven't won a game in 3 games, think that the team aren't, it's my fault and the team aren't doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, if you want to do that, you come down and coach. You know?
Totally.
You're not in my situation. And I heard a great line the other day, and I'm going to use this from now on. And it's so true. And it's, I'm giving up time with my kids to coach your kids.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. Because obviously you're a father outside of this.
Yeah.
You've got a job. You've got a mortgage to pay. All that, these type of things. Like, obviously, you're hoping eventually this career will be able to be incorporated into all that and
100%.
cover those things. But at the moment, you know, you're still building your way up to that. So, yeah, and it's like, I know this is probably not the best source to quote at the moment, but I think I remember Conor McGregor saying that, like, one thing that we never take appreciation of is people's time. You know, the people that do these coaching things and stuff like that, because time it can't be recycled. You know what I mean? Like
No.
money comes and goes and things of that nature, but time is, it's final a lot of the time, innit? You know what I mean? Like there's no getting it back. So, the most surprising thing,
not to judge a book by its cover in football, especially with kids. Adults, you can kind of tell their ability within a session or two. But there's a couple of kids I've had at my sessions where the first 1 or 2 sessions, I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. What am I meant to do? And then something just clicks with them, and I'm like, all right, okay, we've got something here. There's a lot of kids that I'll think, not sure about him, or he could maybe be doing this, and then they'll just surprise me. And it's like, okay, so until I've actually fully had a kid under my sessions for 2 months, 3 months, I ain't making no judgment. I ain't telling you how good a player they are. I can't tell you that in 2 sessions with children. I can tell you that in 2 sessions with adults. I can't tell you that in 2 sessions with children. That's been the biggest thing for me, because players who have not been great players at the start of my time with them, within 3 months are actually half decent players. And that's the boys league. We only get them for 3 months at a time. Is my mic position okay?
Yeah, yours is fine, man.
We only get them for 3 months at a time, and at the start, there was a couple of players last year that were great players. By then, surprised me, shocked me, and yeah, it was fantastic.
There's that great Sir Alex Ferguson quote where it's like, it's something about giving young people a chance, and like his kind of motto behind it, because they asked him what was the reason that you gave so many young people chances, you know what I mean? And he was like, because they'll always surprise you, or something like that, which I think is a really good quote. And it's not just obviously according to football, do you know what I mean? But we live in a world a lot of the time where as people get older, the whole kind of nostalgia thing comes in, and back in my day, and kids have it easy now, when in reality, kids probably have it as hard as ever, but the challenges in that are just different from generation to generation, innit? So
you ask people of an older generation, could they be a teenager now? They'd all say no.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's like what's that like? I guess it's like a blind spot for people, probably from like a younger and older generation, of each other's, different kind of struggles and all that type of stuff. So, no, awesome, mate. What are your strengths as a coach, in your opinion?
I'm very direct. I'm loud. I'm quite adaptable in my sessions. That's probably my biggest one. Because I coach so many different ages and things like that. My sessions are very different. My adult session is very different to my primary school session, and my gleaner session is very different, obviously, because I'm sticking to a structure and things like that. But I'd say it's probably my direct approach with people. People would consider me old school in my style. I'm not above having a go at someone.
That's mad for me to hear, because being your mate and being your mate for a good 5-6 years at this point, I can't imagine you getting angry. So I'm going to have to come down and witness this at some point. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say I get angry, especially not with the kids, because that's not in my. But
what I mean by that is I can't imagine you raising your voice, if you know what I mean.
I can get quite stern, and I think the experience of that comes from being a dad.
Yeah, well, fair.
But I can be quite stern, but I have made a point to and I'm sorry to pull them out, but it's normally my Seafield kids, and I'm like, guys, like I'm volunteering my time. If you don't want to be here, I don't have to be here. Look at it like this. They didn't have a football team before I started. I started that football team in the summer. They didn't have a football team. They've been looking at a coach since COVID. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to give them an hour a week. It's turned into much more than that. It's turned into school festivals. It's turned into friendlies against other schools. It's turned into me taking half days off my work to go and play a friendly against another school and stuff like that. I enjoy it, so I wouldn't do it otherwise. But I've said, look, if I walk away, this whole thing goes. I have to have another adult with me there. That's just through PVG and keeping kids safe and all that. But my other adult, good guy Lee, it's weird, we're both called Lee, so it's easy for the kids. He's already says he wouldn't want to take the team himself, if I was to walk away. So if I walk away, it's done, That's the kind of way I would go. I'm not like, for F's sake, you do this,
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm like, right, guys, this is reality of it. If you want to keep mucking about, I'll just stop coming. You don't have football, you know.
Yeah, I think everyone's had a teacher like that. You know, when like you've been messing about in school, and it's not even like someone going mental at you, or that is literally like almost having like an adult conversation, or like having you on the same kind of level playing field rather than an authority figure talking down. It's like, look, here is the reality of the situation, and that does hit home more for some reason.
I had a situation yesterday with him. I got to the school keep the goals in a little shed. Two of the kids come over to help me get the goals out. Went up 4:30. I'm at a start. 4:43. My clocked me to set up the pitch and all that. I'd been there since 10 past. Shouted them all over. I says, right, what time is it? Like, 4:45. I says, what time did the session start? 4:30. I says, right, why is that? Because you were setting up the pitch. I says, yeah, I was setting up the pitch. I says, what were you doing? Playing football. I says, so what is it? My job and Lee's job and the two guys that helped me, his job to set up your session. I says, I've also got to get these goals unpacked and put away back in the shed, which is going to take another 10, 15 minutes at the end. I've got an hour a week. I says, look at the situation. I'll just paint pictures for people, but like, look, this is what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm quite direct with people. I'm old school. My adults, I don't think all of them like me, but through my experience and the way I manage, I'm not there to be liked. I'm there to get results and success. It's as simple as that. And I'm not going to have a go at somebody for no reason.
Do you think that this has improved your communication skills as a whole, just with people in general? I think it would be, right? Is not just taking the football out of it, just like coaching someone to do anything, I would imagine, is obviously a big communication thing as itself.
Yeah, you've got to, it's not just about football. You've got to use a lot of your life experience in coaching. I will probably go more to my life experience in my coaching when I'm speaking to my kids and that. And it's like trying to explain a point. I'll normally pick a point of. I'm bad for this. I'll say I've got a 4-year-old at home that doesn't do this, guys. I say that quite a lot, but it's quite a good point to prove. You know, if when you're coaching a 10 to 12-year-old, they say. And they kind of think, oh, well, his 4-year-old doesn't do that, you know. So my 4-year-old does do that. My 4-year-old does a lot worse than that.
Mate, like, that is like definitely a card in the back of the pocket, because I've had that said to me as well. It probably is a lot of the time a load of blabber to keep it PG-13. I'm trying to remember, because we're not just kind of running wild with the Northeast corner like back in the day.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what's your weaknesses as a coach at the moment?
This is going to sound so strange, right? But my strength is my weakness.
Depending on the situation, perhaps?
Yeah. I need to be able to adjust my man management skills, not realising that everyone takes the same approach because it's my approach. It's like, I'm starting to find out with adults that some guys need a bit of mollycoddling. Some guys need a bit of an arm around them, and it's strange. And you wouldn't think that happens at amateur football, but it does. Some guys need a bit of extra help. Some guys need a stern word. Some boys need bollocked. You know, everyone's completely different, and that's the bit. I'm not saying it's a weakness, but it's something I'm very new to, and maybe still getting the ropes, if you know what I mean.
Does it make you aware of like that there's different personalities, if that makes sense, right? Because I don't think we really think about those things on a day-to-day basis, rather than if you're in like a concentrated environment like that. Yeah.
The only kind of concentrated environment I've ever really been in before is a care sector, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And 90% of people in the care sector are very happy, like people you're looking after, you know, because you're doing the best of your ability to make them happy, you know. And, not the case in football, majority. But I also need to understand that, like, some guys are, I might be their only good hour and a half for the week, or 2 hours for the week. Our training sessions are 2 hours. They might be having a right shit time in life, and might be getting flat for the missus, might have split up for their missus, you know. And if I'm absolutely drilling them into the ground for 2 hours, and they're also paying £5 to do it, that's not enjoyable for people, especially at the amateur stage. If they're getting paid money to play football, different.
Yeah,
ball
it's a different
game.
story, mate. Yeah.
But I also need to. I think I need to be more aware of that, and that's probably my weakness, I'd say.
Okay. How would you describe your ideal style of play?
Compact at the back. My teams always start at the back. I couldn't really care less what's up front or in midfield if the back's not sorted out. You can have a Haaland in your team. If you've got Gary Caldwell at the back, it's a problem, you know. No offense, Gary Caldwell, but
Please still come on the football journals.
yeah,
as
please do. I've just shouted out to Darren O'Day as well.
That was an AI clone that I put in there as a troll to Lee. So,
but no, compact at the back. I play counter-attacking football. That's my preference.
would you prefer what, like for example, like I think the two main styles are quick transition and possession-based stuff now, and the two like polar opposites of that are Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. I take it you would prefer watching a Liverpool game over taking like the club names and that out of it, just the team and the style itself. Would you prefer watching a Liverpool game and that kind of Gurgen pressing compared to the whole tiki-taka, I guess?
All day long.
Yeah.
I got bored of tiki-taka through Spain.
I know, they just dominated everything.
Yeah. I've got a unique thing. I coach in football. If anyone's listening to this, I'm going to trademark this because I've not heard of this anywhere else. So I've got a thing called the pendulum I've invented.
Okay.
So I actually invented it for my boys' league kids who were quite indecisive and not known to do when they're off the ball. Through my research in that, the average football player touches the ball 80 times during a game. If you're a player like Ronaldo, you're about 150. Really good players are about 200. Like really, really good players. Ronaldo just now, because he's the main player in the team, will about 150. Messi in his prime is 200 to 300 times a game.
Yeah.
Okay. That's your good players though. There's 19, 20 other players in that game. So 95% to 98% of the time you're out of possession of the ball. Okay. So what's your thought process when you're out? So you as a player, Ryan, put yourself in a player situation. What's your thought process when you're out of possession?
Keep the shape.
Yeah, that's a decent one. So there should only ever be two thought processes, a pendulum. And the way I see it is, it's called a push and a pull pendulum.
Right, okay.
So you either push, and this either works if you're in defensive half or the attacking half, and they're polar opposites in each half. So if you're in your defensive half, you either push, which means you push up and you create space further up the field, or you pull, which means you pull close to the ball and you be an option.
Right, okay, yeah, like showing for the ball.
Showing for the ball. If you are in the attacking half, you push. If you're pushing, that means you're pushing close to the ball and being an option. If you're pulling a defender and creating space.
Right, okay.
So depending on where you are in the pitch, there's only ever two decisions to make.
Okay, so there's two options all the time.
Two options all the time, okay? On top of that, you should be keeping your shape. You know?
And like moving as a unit and stuff like that.
Moving as a unit, I'm a big believer in catenaccio. Of if the left back moves out, the centre back goes to fill his position. That is total football, but it's essentially catenaccio defence. But push-pull is essentially good for younger players who are maybe daydreaming a bit when they're not on the ball and don't really know what to do. And I lost 4 in a row. I kind of thought of this thing and I introduced it to my guys and I was like, right, if you've not got the ball, just think, right, what do I want to do? Do I want to get close to the ball or do I want to get up the pitch and make some space and try and get available? Very simple. Kids can do it, adults can do it. But I'm trying to bring it on the idea, if you know what I mean. There's more to it and there's more in my head to it. But that's the simplest way I can describe it, if you know what I mean.
I'm trying to think. Ralph Rangnick described it as rock and roll football. Like it's very much, high intensity and stuff like that. By the way, I'm not trying to take over the podcast here. Probably one of the worst decisions Man United ever made was letting that guy.
Decision.
I know, like his managerial reign didn't exactly go well, but would have been an excellent mind at the top of the structure. But anyway,
one of the mad decisions they made, and I actually heard Ollie speaking about it recently, was Cavani was playing some really good football, and Ronaldo kind of pushed him out the door there, didn't
pretty
he?
much, yeah. I still don't think that. I think that was like a club decision to be like, because United's been built around as a business rather than a football team, and Ronaldo sells shirts. Like, that will never change. He could be retired and you could sign him and he would sell shirts. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, I've enough of my gripes about my side.
So yeah, sorry, push-pull system. I try to implement that. I haven't done it with my adults yet 'cause it's a bit harder when you've got 11 players, and a lot of them are maybe just in their last couple of years of welfare and just want to get a run out and a couple of goals and things. It's hard to implement a system, but certainly for the kids. I also play in the counter, so I like my teams to play narrow. I've always played narrow, even on Football Manager and that, play narrow.
So you're like a fan of the whole kind of inside forward craze that we have these days.
Even inverted wing backs.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely
Oh,
love
I do
that.
like an inverted wing back, to be fair.
And then when Ange came to Celtic, I was like, oh, this guy's all over this stuff.
But
you know?
I think it's like, if people are playing out wide, the danger is just far less. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. You know, obviously, like, you can't avoid it totally because they might swing a belt and crossing and then the striker's there. But 9 times out of 10, if you get played through the middle, that's going to end up way worse than if you force someone out wide, I would say. But I'm obviously not an expert.
And for 11 aside, I have to have a minimum of a back 4. I can't play a back 3. I don't.
Interesting, because I'm a fan of the back 3, but maybe this is why you're a coach and I'm not.
It's maybe I've just not had the players to play it yet, but you need a lot of pace down the sides and somebody who's got a big engine for them wide.
They're not even wing backs, they're more like wide midfielders. They're doing 2 roles basically.
That's it. But 4 at the back, and for all my teams, 11 aside, no matter how I play, I'll always have a number 10. That is, to me, the most important position in the field.
What interesting. Is that because they're the ones that can make things happen?
Right. So you're old school number 10. So you're Dennis Bergkamp, you're Gianfranco Zola, you're Roberto Baggio. They are a very certain mould of 10. I'm not on about that kind of 10. I'm on about Steven Gerrard, Fernando Torres kind of 10.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Somebody that drops deep to get that ball from that midfield and
makes late runs into the box and all that type of stuff.
But as soon as they've essentially in the opposition's half and they've got players ahead of them, either wide players or a striker, it's that there's so much potential opportunities for goals there. I just feel that position, 11 aside, I think I'll always play a 10. I don't know. Unless I'm maybe trying to play against another team who I'm trying to defend against something, I'll maybe switch that up a little bit, put an extra defensive mid in. But I'm a massive fan of the 10. And I think we spoke about it with Evan. The 9.5 is probably what I prefer, like the Robin van Persie.
Yeah.
The 10 that can score.
And then ended up becoming a 9 later on in his kind of older age, I would say.
Yep.
Like, who do you think is the best number 10 in the world at the moment?
Great question.
You can give me 3 so that you don't have to make such a...
I like Pedri.
Yes, he's very good. But he's still kind of playing that... Well, him and Dion kind of complement each other in what they do, don't they?
I really like Pedri. I think for his age, he's outstanding.
For people listening, there isn't a gas leak in the background.
Sorry,
Lee's Lugazette's just open.
Just suddenly it goes silent.
Boom!
Can I maybe give him something like the last 5 years or so?
Yeah,
I can't really
mate.
think
Go
off
for
the
it.
top of my head. I'm sorry, Bernardo Silva is a huge one. Kevin De Bruyne, obviously, we spoke about him. But probably from the last 10 years, the 2 players that I think have impressed me the most in that position have been Juan Mata and David Silva.
Very intelligent. And because they don't have great physical attributes for football, right? Spanish players in general, right? Xavi, Iniesta.
I'd probably throw Santi Cazorla in there as well.
Very underrated player.
Yeah.
Very underrated player. Yeah.
Sorry, we went back to the Gerrard Torres thing. A better example would have been what Fabregas was doing at Arsenal. Okay, he was an 8. I'm pretty sure he was 8.
Yeah, 100%.
Or 4. No, he had 4 on his back.
Yeah, but like,
Fabregas.
yeah.
But he played as an 8. But he scored 15 goals a season, and that is my favourite kind of player. Once we get on my 11, you'll see the 3 players that I've got behind my striker. They're all pretty much a similar player, and that's my favourite kind of player ever. Yeah.
For me, it would be, and I'm biased obviously, but it would be someone like a Bruno Fernandes that's playing in a struggling team, like the first 2 years that he came, and
Even
he
the
would
first
score.
6 months.
Yeah, like
that first 6 months was unbelievable.
He scored every single game.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. Like, obviously, I think he's been kind of asked to drop a bit deeper and play passes into a front line that could be better. Let's be honest. Like,
the back line behind him's not so strong.
well, yeah, 100%. Well, he was playing the back line against Liverpool the other day, wasn't he? But
what a game that was, by
yeah,
the way.
100%. Like, I watched the highlights afterwards,
Same.
and because I was literally telling you and Russell Mackay as we were about to set up, I was like, because
4-3.
literally outsiders were waiting for Russell. It's 3-2, and then young Amad Diallo, who'd have thought? I kind of thought he was kind of toast after
He was
that.
it was at Rangers as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was kind of toast after that loan because it didn't go very well, and then he bossed it at Sunderland. I still hope he gets a chance because Man United's right wing options aren't exactly.
Did they get him from Italy?
Atalanta, same with Hoyland.
Who was the guy that got? Was there another?
You're thinking of Pellistri, perhaps?
No, I'm thinking that there was a guy called Traore.
Yeah, that's him. His name's changed for some reason. It was Traore, but now
Is
it's
that right?
Diallo. Yeah,
Wow, I never knew that. Okay,
it's the same guy.
Swear. Okay, Hamid Traore. I'm pretty
Ahmad.
sure. Ahmad Traore. That's the one. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, but think about Atalanta. Like, that's been a bit of a gold mine for players recently. The guy that's at Tottenham that used to play for Juventus, he came from there as well. Kulusevski, is that his name?
Kulusevski. Yeah, he's a quality player.
He's kind of a bit of a number 10. I know he was like on the right wing for a while, but
Did you like that Draguzan or whatever his name
yeah,
is?
very
Scary sounding name as well. Like, and he just sounds like a big, like 6'4" Serbian or something.
And it's crazy how many wingers have turned into number 10s, like, as they grow older. Like, for me, Marco Reus is a big example of that, and he's like one of my favourite players from the last 10 years, Mr. Consistent as well. Messi, of course, yeah. I would even argue, as much as I don't like this player, Angel Di Maria kind of did it a little bit.
He did, yeah. He had a little bit of a renaissance in the last couple of years.
He did, yeah. Neymar, perhaps, even though, like, obviously he's got his, takes the season off of
and then
February.
Somebody who kind of went the opposite way, who I've always been a huge fan of, is Benzema. So Benzema used to be a 10, and now he's an out 9.
Yeah. It's when Ronaldo left, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Took the mantle, yeah.
Unlocked that kind of potential in him.
100%. You know who was someone that I used to really like, and I was desperate for like Man United to sign. You know when Arsenal were just punting players to rivals left, right, and centre for like a couple of years. I was a big fan of Samir Nasri when he was at Arsenal,
good player.
And then obviously he went and beeped the bed at Man City. But anyway, we're rambling. I'll move on to my next question because
go for it.
We have something familiar to the Football Journals format coming up later. Who are your go-to inspirations for coaching? Like, it could be people that you've worked with, but like in the game as you've watched it over the years, who's someone that you take anything from?
This is going to be a random one. So for a local level, I learn a lot from Robbie. He's a huge inspiration to me. Me and Robbie will spend 15 minutes before a session and 15 minutes after a session speaking football, and it's just speaking football. We're not speaking about the Man United game last night. It's literally man management situations. He'll give me advice and all that. But when it comes to the actual game, Gordon Strachan.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people will hear that and think of him at Celtic, right? Which he obviously did have success at Celtic, and obviously there was a lot of controversy, I suppose, during that time as well, as we'll get onto with your 1 to 11. You're on the other side of it for once. But I'm thinking of like his Coventry days. I'm thinking, was it Southampton that he managed as well? But he had like a really kind of successful period in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Of like
at Leeds as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, but yeah, I was player kind of coach, wasn't he?
Coach, yeah. From what I've heard and everything I've read about him, or people, when I say read, I don't read much. I've got a lot of audiobook listening time in my lifetime. I have thousands of hours of audiobook listening time.
It still consumes the information the same way.
Exactly. So he's just so like, he leads by example. He's in his sessions. I've heard his sessions are just like a work of art. These things, high intensity fitness sessions. When he was player coach at Leeds, he was the fittest guy. He was the best trainer. I spoke about it on one of my episodes. I like to pride myself in thinking that I can, maybe not the football ability of some of my players, but yeah, if we're going on a running session, I'm going to go and do that running
Lead
session.
by example, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The other people, and this is honestly through books and things like that. Neil Warnock, really underrated book, hugely underrated book. But he kind of teaches you to look out, to appreciate the little things in football. Like the big picture's not always going to go the right way. The results aren't going to go the right way. But if you can appreciate the little things at the same time, it also makes if you have a bad result, it makes it a bit easier. You can pick good things out of bad results. It doesn't always have to be about the result. It doesn't always have to be about the negative. And then biggest one for me, Martin O'Neill.
Yeah.
Just classy guy, just really classy. Just done his audio book about 6 weeks ago or so, and kind of blown away by it.
Outperformed probably everywhere he went as well. Leicester, obviously.
Probably, yeah. Done a miracle with Sunderland.
Did a miracle with Aston Villa, mate. They were in the top, remember that was 08-09 where you had like James Milner, Ashley Young,
Stan Petrov.
Yeah, Agbonlahor was on fire at the time. John Carew, yeah.
That was the Villa team that made me support Villa.
I think they were like third at one point. They were almost in the title race at one point that season.
Of the players.
Yes, I know. I did notice that. But yeah, like he everywhere he went, mate, he was
just and such a the more you read about it, the more you hear about him. He's actually a bit of a hard ass, like a guy you would not get on the wrong side of. Done a weird thing as well. Wouldn't name his team till an hour before a game. I'm not a fan of that. Now that I name teams and things like that, I'll get mine out at the start of the week.
Yeah, and a manager that always got respect from his players. I can't remember hearing someone speak bad about him later down the line. And you seen when he left, and obviously like he had such an unfortunate situation with obviously his wife's kind of condition. Yeah. But when Gordon Strachan came in, a lot of those mainstay players that had so much success with him, I wouldn't say it definitely fell apart for someone is in your team. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose as well, he'd been there for so long as well, didn't he? At the time, it was like a good 5 or 6 years.
If you look at what he done when he came at Celtic, though, he filled that team full of leaders, like John Hartson, Chris Sutton, Alan Thompson, Neil Lennon. He brought in all these players, and what he would do is he would leave them to their own devices for 5 days a week. When they weren't training and things like that, it was like, right, the assistants will go in and deal with that. They'll go and find out what's happening in the team and if there's any gossip or that. And they would rarely see him. They'd see if they needed to approach him, but he would rarely speak to them and things like that. And I'm not keen on that approach, but obviously it worked for him. But when Gordon Strachan came in, them leaders all left. You were just left with Neil Lennon. He was a leader in the dressing room.
And like if you think about that, I know we've spoke about this a couple of times in the football journals, but the European run to that cup final, the teams that like Celtic beat that season, like
I could probably name them: Boavista,
Liverpool,
Blackburn, Celta Vigo,
Stuttgart.
I forgot about them.
They were second in the Bundesliga at the time.
They had Kevin Kurani. Do you remember him?
Alexander Hleb before he came to Arsenal.
I forgot about that now. Yeah. I think they also had the unfortunate goalkeeper Robert Enke.
Yeah.
But yeah, huge run. And then the following season, we actually got to quarterfinals. A lot of people forget that. We beat Barcelona.
A couple times under O'Neill, I believe.
Twice, yeah. And then 2 seasons later, Larsson came back and scored.
Oh, don't bring up that moment, man. That made me cry. That was like one of the few times I've cried at football.
Yeah.
What's the long-term goal with coaching, mate?
I'm going to go as far as I can. I am so determined. I've hit a point in my life now when I'm like halfway through my working life. If I get to retire at 70.
Sunak's like, don't be so hasty there, sir.
Yeah, he's just heard that and he's like, bing. I'm halfway through and I need to be doing something. They always say if you do something you enjoy, you never work a day in your life. I've been working for 19 years now, and like I constantly, like, since I was 13, I had a weekend job. Since I was 15, I've had a full-time job. And I've always worked for other people. Apart from when I did my social care job, it's always been for, like, other people not doing what I want to do. And, you know, and it's like, it's time to take a bit of step back and think, all right, okay, there's more to life than this, you know, there's more to life than money. That's all I'm going to say with that. And
yeah, there's more than just the constant cycle. There needs to be enjoyment there. There needs to be fulfillment, right?
Yep. If I had a pipe dream goal, I want to manage Elgin City.
Oh, that would be so amazing.
So that is...
Can I make one request if that dream comes true? Can I be assistant for one game?
Absolutely.
We'll get beat 15-0, but it'll be a great laugh.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's the... Yeah.
And this is where like it actually happens and I'm all like nervous. I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about football tactics.
Well, we'll get you out as a mascot or something.
Yeah.
Holding captain's hand.
Oh, man. Right. Before we get into Football Manager talk, mate, because I feel like that's going to take a bit of time, let's talk about getting involved in podcasting. Obviously, I guess your first experience of podcasting was with me on the Northeast Corner.
Kevin McAloon.
Kevin McAloon, yeah.
Got a lot to thank him for, actually, in terms of that.
So, what made you like? First of all, how did like being on the Northeast Corner? Were you? I guess you were uncomfortable with that to begin with, which is obviously totally understandable because everyone is in the beginning when they're doing something like that for the first time. Did you enjoy that more as time went on? Because we've spoke to it's mental the amount of people that we've spoke to as like a duo, right?
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, Richard Lockhead, Andy McDonald, owner of the McMurray Festival, Grace Nichol, MFR presenter. MFR follow the Northeast Corner now.
Yeah,
so respect to them for realising who are the kings of Northeast media around here now.
Yep.
I'm just,
Melissa Brailsford. Every MMA and fighter and boxer in Murray.
Nearly. You can maybe Lucas Kunis, we've not had yet.
Yeah, that'd be a bit it.
Yeah. But honestly, it's obviously just got more hard to do over time just because we're both in different things now. And in a way that is not sad, but in a way that is I do miss doing that, but I understand obviously nothing good lasts forever, as they say. But it's been a great experience to go and do all that because we've had some great stories. The ones on the road, mate, were the best ones just because how ridiculous of getting there is.
Richard Lockhead was a fucking personal classic.
That was the opening scene of The Dark Knight where they get they're breaking the bag.
It was so Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
It
was can we get all this equipment? It's such it sounds like such a YouTube video. Can we get all this equipment into Richard Lockhead's office before the lights change?
Never mind that. Can we get all this equipment in a fucking Ford Fiesta? I'm pretty sure I was doing a wheelie down that A941.
So did you enjoy doing that? I guess it might be a rhetorical question, but did that aid you thinking in the end I want to start my own podcast and talk about things that that center more around what I want to talk about in general?
Yeah, it wasn't even more what I want to talk about. It's just I really struggle to talk about things I don't know about. You know, I know little bits about a lot of things, but there's very few things I know a lot about, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And football is one of the things I know a lot about. I'm trying to think of anything else I know a lot about. Cleaning cars. That is my day job. I'm just to point out to people. Yeah.
Being a dad,
yeah, obviously. But that obviously that's a learning curve every single day. So
never stop learning, man.
No, you don't. But
so why start your own one?
I suppose I was trying to get more football talk on the Northeast Corner, but the Northeast Corner is not a football podcast.
No, it's a Freemason podcast, as we've learned over the years.
Absolutely. So I wanted to I thought, right, let's try it, you know. And do you want my honest thing? I thought, right, I'm going to do 4 episodes and then probably be right, okay.
Right, okay.
That'll be it. And if it's not piqued my interest by then I'm not going to pursue it, because I'm not the kind of person that will float a dead rubber, for example. If it doesn't interest me, or it's no longer satisfying for me, I'm not going to continue to pursue it. It's been the story of my life, mate. So yeah, I just thought, let's try it.
And now you're the biggest thing on TikTok from Murray of all time.
Yeah.
Apart from that lady that's a streamer.
Oh, that old lady, like, yeah. I need to get a hold of her. Like, what's she doing right? But
Fortnite journals coming at you.
Madness, absolute madness. Piss poor game as well. But yeah, just kind of taking on leaps and bounds, and then I don't know. I think I need to scale back from the TikTok and the YouTube, because I find it getting a bit addictive.
Yeah, that is a real thing, man. It's a dopamine thing, and you feel good about how much, and it's a good thing, don't get me wrong, because it's exposure at the end of the day, right? But how do you feel, like, because I guess it's a bit of a different experience for you compared to me, because whenever I've done this or whenever I've produced for people, I'm focusing a lot on the technical side a lot of the time, hence why, like, this is an audio thing now, because I just want to be able to zone in a bit more and actually think about, because sometimes I zone out. And, you know, towards the end when we were doing episodes, I was like looking at cameras, and I haven't told guests that I have to do that, so they probably think I'm being rude.
Yeah.
I've got questions on my laptop, and I'm like, when's the right time for me to get in? You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Taking that extra external stress, because when I first started doing the Northeast Corner, everything was in auto. There was no studio lights or anything like that. I just let the camera and the roadcaster do all the work. Whereas now I've kind of got that back a little bit with what I'm doing now, and I'm really enjoying kind of getting back on the consistency horse, which has been a massive issue for the Northeast Corner for a little while. But what's your experience as someone that does, like, obviously, I obviously produce your show, right, in the studio, and I guess that kind of coincided with your idea of wanting to start your own when the fact that this place opened.
Yeah.
How does that put it more, is it more easier for you to focus on, like, conversation and that, obviously, with...
I struggle a bit more because I've not got you to bounce off of sometimes. Right, okay. You know?
I do have my moments on the football
you
journals, though.
You do. I'm finding it, as episodes go on, I'm finding it easier.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
But initially, it's like when somebody would answer a question and maybe come to the end of the question without me, like, scrambling and look at my notes or something like that. Like, if we had a guest on the Northeast Corner, that's when you ask a question. You know,
this is a different dynamic now.
Yeah, so that's slightly where I'm struggling, but I am definitely getting better. And what I've felt like is I'm giving people like a tree of questions now, and each question has a branch, and it's got a couple of questions that lead off of it. And especially with guys from Elgin and that, like, I can ask them how good a football player when they're younger, and then if they don't mention certain things like, did you play for Elgin Boys Club? What age did you get spotted by Elgin? Blah blah blah. You know, that initial question can lead on to other questions. For example, when asking people who their favourite football player is, I can branch it off into all time and still playing now. You know, and then that's an extra 5 minutes of stuff. I'm not trying to fill in gaps, if you know what I mean, but it's just to save any moments where I'm like either having to scramble, look at my notes, or, for example, a silence I'm not expecting, if you know what I mean. Somebody kind of answers quick and proper their question. Is
it a good, like, balance, because it takes you away from coaching and you're still speaking about football in a different sense, and then it, like, when you're coaching, it takes you away from this, you know what I mean? Is there like a good balance there where it's all football related, but it's very different at the same time, you know?
Yeah, it's two opposite ends of the spectrum, I suppose, because coaching's very much in the moment and things are happening there and then, whereas when I've got guests and we're normally speaking about the past and things like that, and there's a lot of research that can be done like that. I can plan a training session and have all these numbers written out for all these guys and have all these drills, but if 3 people turn up, that goes to shit, goes out the window, you know. Whereas these are a lot more structured, and I can kind of, I think I found a happy medium of 12 questions. I had 15 for one.
Yeah, because like I used to be like this as well, where I was like, I need so many to make it to an hour, and then you realize you end up going over because like
Well over.
it's.
Yeah.
I try and make it more talking points and questions now because, like you say, branches just form organically. Do you know what I mean?
I've tried to dial down my stats as well. See, when Alan May now had all his teammates caps for Scotland and everything involved in it, but that was my first proper footballer episode. So I just wanted any eyes that were on me, just wanted to let them know that I do my research on people.
Oh yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah.
And like I can find out, like, cause I go into these groups and things, like you wouldn't get the stories that I got about Frazee and that from anywhere else.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. And I think like it's awesome because a lot of hard work goes into it from both sides, right? The research, the questions, the social media promotion on your end, and then I guess the technical side in terms of cameras and editing and all that, which is obviously more my domain. That kind of leads me on to my next question. I think I know the answer to this with who you just brought up. What episode were you the most nervous for? I would have a guess at Alan Main, but I could be wrong.
In terms of the people I was meeting, it was Alan Main, but probably the first one.
Yeah, true.
First one, I was just like, I wasn't really sure where we were going to go with this. Just had some questions written down, and yeah, it went well, you know. And I thought, all right, okay. I get more nervous when I'm sending the messages on Facebook.
Yeah, it's like that breaking the ice.
I get anxiety, and I'll read that message 5 times before I send it.
It's because like I used to, again, the same with me, right? And it's like, I don't know what it is, but your instant thought is they're going to say no or say something dismissive, but no one has ever done that, right?
I've had one
experience.
no so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to ask you about that after we're done here. Sorry, your favourite moment so far? Can I assume that's the Alan Main one, considering how that went?
Yeah, when he kind of blew me away at the end and gave me his match worn
Incredible
shirt.
gesture, yeah.
Yeah, and I was absolutely speechless. I didn't know what to say. Well, you were here. I phoned Carrie. I was like, you never guess what's just happened.
And amongst me doing musical chairs because we literally had Aidan Stephen.
Yeah,
like
exactly. I was just gobsmacked by that, and like, I never in a million years started this podcast to receive gifts from people. Like, if anything, I feel like I should be giving gifts to people. You know. Do
you feel guilty when you get gifted stuff like that?
A little bit.
Yeah, same.
A little bit. It's very nice, and I will have a football memorabilia room in my house one day. I've got a box that is building up by the week. Maybe because I keep buying classic packs of stickers on TikTok, but that's another question for another day. We're not. Carrie will fall out if she hears him speaking like that again. But yeah, that was a bit surreal. Another surreal moment was going down to my football training a week after Frazee had been in, and Frazee's there watching his grandson, and then screw up and speak to him like a normal person. It's like, this is a bit weird, like, because I didn't know you a week ago. And,
And well, everything you hear about Frazee apparently is just a topper of a guy. Like,
absolutely. He always got a smile on his face, Frazee, as well. I really enjoy his company. Always comes over, asks him to, always shakes my hand and things like that. So yeah, a lot of time for the Frazee. Like,
what's the episode you learned the most from? Ian had a lot of unique information, like that stat about I can't remember the guy's name at the moment, but the guy that was a world-class
John
center,
Charles.
John Charles.
Yeah.
Like, I think we were both going to take him back a little bit with that.
I enjoyed that. That was really good. Sorry, what was the
episode you've learned the most from?
Learned the most from.
I suppose you could take that either way. I guess you could learn from a sense of how am I going to improve my questions and that going forward, and then the actual football knowledge.
From football knowledge, I'd say Ian.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
from Ian. In terms of insight, I'd probably say Jamie Acas.
Yeah, obviously because he's
that was a bit of a different one for me. I wanted to stay in football, but I'm too controversial to be a referee. Like, I end up getting into fights and stuff like that. But it was interesting to hear his take, and especially after he'd refereed my game the night before. You know, that was interesting, and I'm interested to get more unique perspectives like that. Like, I, for example, would like to get me a football physio.
Yeah, man.
You know, what's the worst injury you've seen? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of thing I want to hear. You know,
And it's cool how like all this is developing as you're going along as well. And like me personally, mate, it's like I know obviously like you pay me to produce the podcast and that, and it is my job. But if it's a pleasure to sit and like get the best seat in the house to this a lot of the time.
I appreciate
you know what I mean?
that, like-
So long way to continue, man. Because
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly enjoying it at the moment.
well, I've already promised my viewers that we are going every 2 weeks this year, and if it continues, it'll be next year as well. So
And I've been working on something in the background. I've been working on a sound effect for the football journals for a certain segment that has came up recently.
yes, fantastic.
So look forward to that. I won't give it away just now.
Is that my segment or your segment?
Well, the segment where I have to go against whoever's in.
Yeah, I like the name of that.
Yeah,
That's,
trust me. I'm gonna
fantastic.
I've got an intro that I'm gonna play on the sound pad for that the next time. So
Allegedly.
no, it's not allegedly. It's one of the anyway. You'll hear it at the time. This is why we have the headphones and everything. Okay, before we get into Football Manager, last quick one on the podcast and stuff. Top 3 guests you'd love to have on the Football Journals in the future.
My all-time guest be Henrik Larsson.
Of course.
I think I've made a point of that before. I'd like to speak to Paul Lambert.
Oh, what a shout! Yeah.
I'd like to speak to Paul Lambert. I just think he's such an underrated player. You know, he man-marked Zinedine Zidane out in the 1996 Champions League final, and that was his only job, and he did it to perfection.
Had a little bit of an underrated managerial stint at like the likes of Norwich. Obviously, Villa, it kind of
Wickham as well. He was
Yeah.
great at Wickham. And if you listen to any players who have played under him on Under the Cosh, they says he's meticulous, and he does a unique thing. He goes, any new club he goes into, he picks on the biggest character, most popular person in the dressing room
Interesting.
and bullies the living crap out of them. Well, it doesn't bully, but makes an example of them,
yeah.
to show that nobody's under it. And then the third one, I'm going to say this because this might be potential, but Ian Holloway.
Oh my god. You know, but there's not. I'm obviously quite zoned in on what I'm doing, so like it usually hits me later. Like for example, when Alan Main came in,
Yeah.
I was like, let's get lights, cameras. So I'm kind of like taken aback from that a little bit. But I remember later on, and this is just another sign that the phone's listening to you. It came up on the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah.
Alan Main's best saves from the SPFL, and I was looking, and I was like, that guy was in here like 2 years, like, and then you think like that. But if Ian Holloway is in the studio, even if we have to go to Ian Holloway somewhere, to be fair,
happily.
like not just. I wanted to obviously ask about the Wayne Rooney rant because it's one of my favorite moments of
I
all
want to ask
time.
about Ronaldo, right?
Yeah, but I would love to ask his thoughts on like how Wilfred Zaha's career went, because I think as someone that obviously was a massive part of that Palace promotion season for him, I think like he was destined for great things, and then what happened at Manchester United happened allegedly, and he still had a half decent career. Do you know what I mean? But I thought he was going to be like that Gareth Bale level at one point. I would also like to ask him about players like DJ Campbell that I think are really underrated.
I would just like to ask him about his experiences of him watching Barcelona midweek and then putting on a training session. Right, today we're going to play like Barcelona. What are you doing? What are you doing, Ian?
How many TikToks do you reckon we're getting out of that one? Like 10?
Yeah, don't just cut that bit out.
Yeah. Paul Lambert, also a Champions League winner, so that would be huge.
First ever Scottish Champions League winner.
With Borussia Dortmund.
Yep. And was signed. He was signed from he went on a trial. He was at Motherwell, got let go, I think it was, and went on a trial at Borussia Dortmund and just loved it.
Motherwell just like sort of like,
Yep, pretty much.
Right, mate. Football Manager, the time has come. So you took issue with the last episode because I mentioned our only online save, which
Well, I haven't taken issue with it. I just haven't had my chance to get one back on you yet.
I know. I'm making you wait, but I will get the new. I'll get the new version of the game soon when it's on sale, and then you'll probably beat me because I've had like a hiatus from it. But to be fair, I was really gutted with to let that save go because I felt like I had just built my team to like proper mess. Like, because the first season, I'll happily admit this, Ciro Immobile was just bailing me out of everything.
He was.
Like, I had like Wrong Magnoli and a Kirby as my centre back painting. You know what I mean? Like I was literally waiting for the Calvary to come in the second year when I had money.
What was his name? The guy you bought from Udinese.
Oh,
He was absolutely brilliant. I can't remember his name.
what position?
He was like a winger. Is it a winger or a striker?
Was it not Yeboah? That was from
Yeboah,
Genoa. Yeah, because I played two
yeah,
strikers
that's
with
it.
him and the one that was a cheat code. The tall Italian striker plays for Ajax now.
Lorenzo Luca.
Lorenzo Luca. There we
Yeah.
go, son. Because you stole Scamacca off of me.
Yeah.
It was actually quite controversial because we were going for a lot of the same transfer targets.
Calling you vampires in the press conferences.
I remember it was like Mobley he did so well because Mobley got injured. So I went from like going to win the league to I might not be finishing top 4 here, lads. And then I kind of saved it at the end. But then there were so many teams in for him. Yeah. And I was like, I could totally rebuild the
I
side.
won the Conference League, mate.
You did. You were the only one that got a trophy.
Yep.
But I felt like my time was coming in the second season. And there was a cup game in the second season. And
Yeah,
I had to take the hounds off you, didn't I? I had to call them off.
Pretty much, I got fucked.
Yeah. Well, we will get another online save, though, because that was good fun.
We could go back to that one, to be fair.
Can you carry it over from 2022?
Not from 2022, but we could just go back and play 2022.
True.
Oh
well, they had the mods and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this year's is the last before the new game engine. This year's is the last before women's football's introduced and things like that. So big year next year for.
There's a few memes that have come up from that, but
I bet
too hot for TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when did you first start playing the game, mate? Because you're like championship manager, like 90 something or 2000, was it?
I say 99.
99, yeah.
8 years old.
Jeez, man.
On a old AOL PC. The actual PC was made by AOL.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
was it as like, obviously it wouldn't have been as in depth as it is now, but did it always still have like that kind of in-depth nature as compared to like other sports games?
Because you didn't know any different at the time,
it felt like it did.
It felt like the most advanced thing you'd ever been on in your life, and like it felt like today's version does now, if you know what I mean. But they've always been miles ahead in terms of data and that. But with Championship Manager, used to have your regens. They don't have regens, and it's more new gens. So when a player used to retire in the old game, they would just be brought in as a 16-year-old, same nationality, they would just have a different name, and it was about trying to find these players. And you could just have saves going on forever, because you just, as soon as Ronaldinho retired, it's like, right, find someone with that exact same position in Brazil, and one of them's going to be him. But I miss all that kind of stuff. But yeah, 99, 2000, and then 2000, 2001 was my first versions. And then I got heavy into it 06.
I was around 2012.
Yeah.
And then I think I got frustrated with the game. You know, I didn't get frustrated with the game because they were just being good here and making it as realistic as possible. I got frustrated when Brexit happened and work permits were becoming harder to get a hold of. But for me, it's such a good game, right? But it's almost too good. Yeah. And like, I find myself getting too involved with it. And like, you know, there's that meme of just one more game before bed.
It's true.
And I would say that like 6 times. You know what I mean?
It's true, man. I went 2006 to like 2008, 2009, and then I became a dad, so I didn't really play. I'm going to say for like the best part of it, almost 10 years. But I still downloaded it every year.
Yeah.
Still bought it. I'd maybe throw in a couple of 100 hours here and there, and that would be it. And then I'd move on. And then it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I started heavily getting into it again. And now I wouldn't say I'm as bad as I used to, but at least 3 nights a week. Yeah. And a lot of the time I'll just have it on, and it'll just be have it on in the background playing while I'm on my phone, and it'll maybe only do 2 games that night, but it'll just be there, you know. I've got a really interesting one just now. I'm playing a retro Mad Scientist.
Yeah, because the plan was we were going to do Man United Arsenal 98, 99. There was something like that.
We were.
And then I had done goofed and sold my computer at the time.
Yep.
I do have a Steam Deck now, so when the sale comes...
So it's 07, 08, you'd be able to get that. Rooney, Tevez, Ronaldo team.
You going with Arsenal? And Arsenal's got a good side in that one as well.
No, I wouldn't be going Arsenal. I'd be
Chelsea?
going Chelsea.
Oh, right,
Drogba,
okay.
Lampard.
Yeah, true.
And Elka and all that.
Yeah.
But I am 2007, 2008 Hibs.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
Scott Brown's still part of the side, right? He's left to Celtic.
Stephen Fletcher.
Stephen Fletcher. Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
Stephen Fletcher built the whole team around him.
I can't remember if this was like for a laugh or that, but I'm pretty sure there was a rumor once upon a time ago when he was like in his prime at Hibs, where Real Madrid were looking.
Aye, wow.
Apparently.
Damn.
I don't know if that was a meme. Like, I think, admittedly, I did read it in 442 magazine, which maybe not the most.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was pretty reputable for football sources, but
Absolutely. But the thing about the retro databases is, like, go and look at the 16, 17-year-olds in there, right? So just now I've got Tony Kroos and Mats Hummels on loan. And like
at Hibs.
At Hibs, yeah. And their stats are pretty decent as well. Yeah. And then buying players that are just a bit of a throwback. So like there's a 30-year-old Ronaldo R9 on there. Ronaldinho's on there at AC Milan. Both of them are at AC Milan on the that AC Milan team.
Fire. Should have done way better than it actually did.
But you also look at the same time as you look at the Real Madrid team, you look at the Barca team, you look at the Bayern team at the time was actually pretty good as well. Ribéry and Robin and things like that.
Luca Toni perhaps as well.
Luca Toni up front, but they also had Mario Gomez. Do you remember him?
Yes, very underrated. They've always had like, apart from obviously Lewandowski, where he was like a superstar striker, Bayern have always played with like that kind of underdog goal scorer, right? Because Mario Gomez was good, but was never seen in the same bracket as like, who was kicking about at that time? Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Inzaghi, or even like an Adebayor. Do you know what I mean? In his pomp at Arsenal. But I do remember him. He scored a goal that knocked Man United out the Champions League, so it's hard to forget him. But
it's them ones you remember all the
well,
time.
Luca Toni knocked Scotland out of the.
So he did.
I would say the referee though, because it was a foul on Alan Hutton. But
who scored the free kick
for them?
Yeah, it was Panucci.
Might have been, or it could have been Daniel De Rossi, perhaps.
Something rings a bell. Panucci for some reason for me. I don't know why. No.
I remember Barry Ferguson scored the equaliser, and then obviously 94th minute.
He did. It was just slightly before him and McGregor's whole.
Yes, the controversy.
Yeah, Boozegate.
Yeah, Boozegate. What's your favourite save of all time?
It's going to sound mad. Spurs.
Oh, honking.
Took over Liverpool. FM13 it is. Took over Liverpool. Got sacked. And normally when I get sacked, I just quit.
Okay.
Or I'll retire my guy and then just take over another team. I thought, I'm just going to apply for jobs. Just start apply for everything there. Spurs one was the most interesting one. But I had like Luis Suarez there before he went to Liverpool and all this kind of stuff. I had players like Javier Hernandez.
Chicharito, no way.
Yeah.
That's actually quite a good strike partnership.
Gareth Bale and players like that. But that save went on for like 25 seasons and I won the Champions League like 6 times in a row. But most recently, it's my Elgin City that I managed to get Dele Alli on a free transfer in. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sold him for 1.1 million and then floated my team up to League One.
The
Championship.
You see Neil, last episode, did a save with Elgin. He got them all the way to, I think it was Champions League.
That's what it's all about, Neil.
Yeah.
I'm all here for that. Like, I don't think I've made it. I don't know.
Challenge accepted.
I think I have. I made it Champions League with Wrexham a couple of seasons ago. I also managed to keep Sandro Tonali at Brescia for like 15 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was probably one of my favourite saves ever because Italy is so limited with its finances that I'd win the league and then I'd be given a £9 million transfer budget for the next season. So what you might do with that against 80 million of AC Milan.
The best up-and-coming players at the start of the game, though.
Yeah.
When we were playing in 2022, you had Tonali.
Tonali, sheltered up.
Yeah, Lorenzo Luca, Yeboah,
Makoko,
Rishi,
aye,
Skamaka even.
Skamaka, yeah.
Do you know what? I remember I was saying to my mate, I was like, see, for like a striker to like complement Hoyland, like a more experienced guy, I would take Gianluca Scamacca. Now, he's obviously had a torrid time at West Ham, but he's playing in like a totally wrong kind of system for him. He's actually very good with the ball for a guy that's like 6'6".
Yeah. Scamacca, I think he's underutilized.
Yeah, 100%.
He still gets a game for Italy as well.
He does.
Yeah, bit strange.
Yeah.
You get players like Willie Noto as well.
Aye, Leeds. Is he still at Leeds?
Still at Leeds.
He's been trying his best to get out, like, but
yeah, I don't think Dominic's too happy with that. Dominic's a Leeds fan. He's not got too much to be happy about in general.
Still the only clean sweep in Football Journal's history as well.
Yeah. I will, because I can change my vote, I will maintain that as a only ever clean sweep. You know, I have to vote against Celtic for something. Well, Celtic win the league, no.
We'll get to 100 episodes and we frame that and put it in the studio somewhere.
Yeah, it's a memento.
Oh, right. So my last question on Football Manager is, can playing FM improve your ability to be a coach in the real life game? Because there's a lot of, you've always heard the kind of story about a guy in his young years playing FM and then a club actually hires him as a coach or a data analyst or analysis or whatever. Do you genuinely, if someone has never took an interest in football before, could they actually play FM, get into FM, not be obviously a coach straight away, but actually have an acknowledgement of what is going on in a coaching game being in a real life situation?
I don't think you'd have a great knowledge of it. You'd maybe have a concept of it. But it'd be a very simulated concept, if you know what I mean. There is a big difference between normal football and video game football.
Yeah, of course.
It helps your knowledge of football. Like, for example, you didn't get this back in Championship Manager now, but right now, if I go into Football Manager and I click on my inverted wing back, it'll tell me all the strengths and weaknesses of an inverted wing back and normally the formations that it'll fit into and things like that. Like, I've been doing that game so long that it's all quite stuck in my head now. Like, I could tell you 3 advantages and disadvantages of a trequartista, for example.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I think it's helped me. My player knowledge, through the roof.
Your knowledge of the game in general improves. From
my knowledge of geography as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I could tell you capital cities or stadiums off the back of my head. Like,
probably even political events. Like, stuff that's going on in the world, like, because like COVID was a thing for a while.
COVID was in it. Brexit
was in it.
Scottish independence was in it.
Yeah.
They've got, if you play long enough, you get 2060, 2070 into the game, you'll get countries leaving the European Union who are mandated to leave the European Union in 60 years' time because they've not signed an agreement and things like that. That'll happen in Football Manager. That smart guys that run that game.
Yeah, 100%.
Really smart. But I wouldn't say, if you've never played football or coached football before and you're going to use that as your base to get into football, it's not going to work.
I'm just saying, like, it could, like, for example, if someone takes it up, and I'm not saying they're being the coach, but if they were in an environment like that where they're just spectating, they could kind of get an idea of what's going on in some places.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. It'll also help you get a good understanding of, for example, how systems work. If you know,
of course, yeah.
Like, because Football Manager are very good at doing a visual representation. If you want to play a gegenpress, you will actually see your team's gegenpressing on the game. You know, if you want to play out from mid block, your teams won't start attacking until they're playing for the mid block. You know, it's for learning things like that about the game is really good. And
I think if you're going to learn from it, I would play it in is it 2D with the little kind of checkers pieces, because obviously the more visually nicer looking is the 3D where you see the highlights and you see the player models. But in terms of actually, because that's what they have for, like, you know, the tactics masterclass where they have the board with the checkers and everything. I always find that really fascinating.
Sam Allardyce, mate, is the only manager that used to watch the game from the stand. He says you can't see nothing from a touchline.
Yeah.
Being an assistant manager now, 100% agree with him. You don't see nothing. See, if I was up in a stand, I could see the whole game.
I think it was also an excuse to go for a bine, though, if I remember seeing him back in the 90s. But good advice nonetheless. Right, 1 to 11, mate.
Okay, this is interesting.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Right. As you'll see, I took a screenshot on my phone, and it's because I forgot to do it beforehand. So in true Football Journals fashion, I'm going to read all of them out, and then I'm going to pick a name, and we'll go through. You know what? We'll go through each and every single one, because none of them are coming on the Northeast corner next.
Yeah. Oh, they are, mate. I'm here, like.
But do you know what? Right. See, when you sent me this, right, you caught me off guard, but in a good way. And from some of the names in here, do you know what this team made me instantly think?
Yeah.
Premiership years. Do you remember that show on Sky?
Yeah, huge about it.
So the goalkeeper, and this is the one that like sent me into the shadow realm when I first read it, is UC Askelainen.
Yeah.
Right back, Lillian Thuram.
Yeah.
And then a centre-back partnership, which is fantastic, is Bobo Baldi and Olof Mellberg.
Yeah.
Left back's Paolo Maldini.
Classic.
Are we playing a 4-2-3-1 here or a 4-3-3?
A 4-2-3-1.
4-2-3-1. So your double pivot is Stan the Man, also known as Stilian Petrov, and Xabi Alonso. Number 10, Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah, no doubt.
The wingers are the inverted wingers.
No, there's 3 cams.
Okay.
3 10s.
3 number 10s. So Dennis Bergkamp and Lubo, but for his full title, Lubomir Moravchik.
That's the one.
There we go. Yeah. And surprise, surprise, up top is Michael Mols. No, I'm joking. Henrik Larsson.
Yeah.
So UC Askelainen, mate. Let me just. I went and had a look at his career.
Have you done a highlight reel of him?
Oh my god! Like
filthy.
Do you know what? Like I was actually having a wee kind of research again of him last night because he's a name that I hadn't heard for years. Obviously, his main, like what I remember him most for is that stint at Bolton, and I think it's his biggest kind of. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and it was a successful Bolton side. You know, he went all the way from promotion to being in like the top six in the Premier League.
6 Route 1 football as well.
Let me just get his career up quickly. Yeah. He was at Bolton Wanderers from 1997 until 2012. He made 474 appearances in the Premier League alone, including like the Championship and all the leagues belowhand. But also had a stint at West Ham as well for a couple of years after. Yeah. It might be mental to say, but for me, he's a Premier League great.
Oh, absolutely.
Just the longevity and like the success that Bolton Wanderers side had. I had a thought for a second that they might have made it to a UEFA Cup final, but it was Middlesbrough under Steve McLaren instead. But they were far in that competition as well. You know,
there was only one person that came close to Askelainen, and it'll be another one that'll blow you away. Is Claudio Taffarel.
I can't say I'm familiar with the name, mate.
So the '98 World Cup,
right?
Brazil,
okay.
That I've got to sound really racist here, but he was the only white guy in the team.
Right, okay.
Apart from Dunga, sorry, but he was the big white goalie, and he just stood out for me. But I thought, I can't really. And then I thought, try to think, like who is the goalie of my childhood? Like, and it's Rob Douglas, the goalie of my childhood, but he was never outstanding. And I thought, I always really liked UC Askelainen. He was small as well.
He was.
Yeah, he was. I think he was barely 6
Shot
foot.
stopping was incredible though,
and his kicking was unreal. They played Route 1 Bolton, and he used to just kick it down the middle of the park.
Probably ahead of his time in that sense as well, where goalkeepers were obviously more shot stoppers rather than trying to like actually pick out a player. You know what I mean? A Premier League great, mate. Like, are you surprised that he never moved like a bigger side or anything?
No, because if you look at who was ahead of him at the time, right? You had United, they had Barthez, they had Schmeichel,
Van der Sar as well.
Van der Sar. You had Arsenal, who had longevity in Seaman and Lehman. You had Liverpool, who had Reina. They had David James for in the 90s. Chelsea, Ed De Hoy, Carlos Cudicini, and then they had Petr Cech. Spurs,
Paul Robinson,
very Spursy at the time, but Bolton were that 6th side.
Yeah, 100%.
So apart from that top 4 or 5, he's not really going to go anywhere else in that league. You know, he's only going to go a weaker team.
Yeah, and then obviously Bolton got relegated in 2012. Rightfully stayed in the Premier League because like that was the start of Bolton's financial troubles, I guess you would call it. And went to West Ham, and I remember the season that he played for West Ham, or the first season he played for West Ham, he had an amazing game against Spurs, and it was the season that Gareth Bale did that whole 20-goal wonder goal season. And it was literally, he had one of the games of his life, mate, but Gareth Bale scored that screamer in like the 93rd minute just doing Gareth Bale things. But even like into the end of his career was like
Proper
an absolute monster at shot stopping and being that that staple, that consistency as well. Like there's not many people that stay at clubs for 15 years, yet alone a club like Bolton Wanderers. Do you know what I mean? Very unique.
And I don't have any doubt that he got offers at bigger clubs.
Oh, 100%. He must have. So next up, Lilian Thuram.
Yeah, world class.
I never knew he was a right back, mate. I've always associated him as a centre back.
Big World Cup finals right back.
100%, yeah, that 98 side and was it Euro 2000 as well? France won.
Did. I could name you that whole team if you want, but I'm not going to bore you.
But I've got his career here. Only went to 4 clubs, but had an amazing career. So he started off at AS Monaco, which were
under Wenger.
Under Wenger, like amazing side in the French league, and obviously kind of had their up until 2003 where they made it to the Champions League final, beaten by Mourinho's Porto.
Wenger converted him from a centre midfielder.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And then he went on to Parma in 1996. I take it, is this a Parma side that would have had Gianluigi Buffon in it?
Yes. Buffon, Veron, Crespo.
Wow.
Cannavaro, Nesta, Paolo Vinoli. Don't know if you've heard of him. Diego Fuser. And Alan Bogusin. I can never pronounce his second name. He was a famous French international as well. Yeah.
And did they ever win a Serie A or anything like that?
No, they won a UEFA Cup and a UEFA Super Cup, but I think due to financial troubles.
Yeah.
But that was the 2000 to 2001 season. Roma ended up winning the league in Serie A, and it was a 7-horse race.
Wow.
Yeah. You look at the 2000 to 2001 Serie A and look at how close that was, and it's a 7-horse race for the title.
Would that have been the season with like Gabriel Batistuta was playing for Roma?
No, he was at Fiorentina at this point.
So it would have been Totti just coming about and stuff like
Totti,
that?
Montello, Del Vecchio, Emerson and that. You had Lazio, Fiorentina, Juventus, AC, Inter. They were all going for it. Like
crazy.
Yeah.
You rarely get like stuff like that now as well. Even like everything seems to be decided before the final day now. Do you know what I mean? Like
maybe, hopefully not this season. Yeah, it's looking good.
So yeah, then he went on to Juventus. I take it he kind of followed Buffon in that sense. Maybe Buffon went a few years beforehand.
Yeah, and then I think he was involved in the whole demotion thing.
Yeah, because from 2006 he moved to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Very good Barcelona side, the Ronaldinho era. Moved around the time that they'd signed Henry and that. Like that Barca side, 07-08 under Rijkaard, that had Messi, Eto'o, Ronaldinho, Henry, Puyol, Marquez, Lilian Thuram.
Thuram was actually keeping Gianluca Zambrotta out the team.
Yeah,
as well.
Who was another like just unreal right back, centre back kind of hybrid, really, wasn't he? Victor Valdez, of course, as well was in there.
Brilliant.
Xavi, Iniesta. How that never won anything?
It's crazy.
Is
Frank Rijkaard's the reason they never won nothing. Well, sorry, they won that Champions League and maybe a couple of leagues, but he hadn't set up that team well. Pep was the man that took that team,
and he was a bit cutthroat, right? He got rid of Eto'o and Ronaldinho pretty much instantly. Well, I think Ronaldinho went first, which was shocking at the time because it was a season after he was like probably viewed as the best player in the world.
Yep.
But yeah, and then until his retirement in 2008. So another.
He only ever scored 2 goals for France, and it was in the World Cup semi-final.
Wow.
Yeah.
Clutch.
Both in extra time. Pretty sure.
And I think the only player that I could probably compare to Thuram in modern day would maybe be Eric Abidal.
Yeah, I'd agree with that at left back. Yeah, he was good.
Also played a bit of centre back for the Barcelona side as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But he was a centre midfielder. Arsenal converted him. He done that to Henry. He done that to Didier Deschamps. He done that to loads of players. And
that would probably explain why he's got 8 goals for Monaco if he was a midfielder right at the start.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, didn't move around a lot, but every club he played at, you've got to say, was probably up there was the best in the league at the time.
I think every club he upscaled. So every time he went to a bigger club.
So Monaco in the Ligue 1, and then Parma in their heyday, the Serie A, Juventus, who are the golden standard in Serie A, barring obviously, and then Barcelona at the time. So it doesn't get much better than that. And obviously a World Cup winner, a European Championship winner. Not much he hasn't won.
No.
Would he have won the Champions League at any point? Maybe not.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, because he would. 2006, it would have been when Barca had just won it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he came 06, 07, and then he would have finished the 07, 08 season. So yeah, he missed out on it.
Yeah, missed. Mm-hmm.
But hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, you know what
Exactly.
I mean? Okay, so the next one is Bobo Baldé.
Monster.
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind with Bobo Baldé is the chant,
Yeah.
Bobo's going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had 2 monsters in the old firm at the time. You had him and Amoruso, right? They were just absolute demons. Baldé always seemed to be, you know how you said your strength is your weakness at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of seemed to be the same with him, where his aggression and his front foot tackling was a good side to him, but it would get him in trouble a lot, as you've seen with, I think he gave away the free kick in that Scottish Cup final that he'd scored in, that Barry Ferguson equalised from the free kick, and then Lovenkrands scored it.
Sent off in the final in 2003.
Yeah, in Porto, yeah. And it was like was it not like within 10 minutes of each other? It was like the 85th minute and then the first 5 minutes of first half of extra time. Yeah. But undeniably a monster. Actually pretty underrated on the ball. Like if you look at his debut, that ball that he sends into Lubo on his debut is like out of this world, you know what I mean? If Virgil van Dijk played a pass like that, people would be raving about it.
Well, as you say, you know, because he's not expected to do it, it doesn't get talked about, does it? Also a bit of a madman through listening to books and reading books and things like that. He used to see Reading games and it used to take 2 other big Celtic centre-halves to go and calm him down.
Yeah, like a Mialbi. I think that was a really big miss when he left, right? Because the organisation was kind of gone.
Yeah. We also had Useful Haran, who was a big Belgian at the time, who was probably bigger than Baldy, but just not as wide and things like that.
Stayed around for a long time though, because there
2006.
Well, he actually left 2009, but there was
Did he?
Yes,
No way.
because he went to the reserves and refused to leave. He nearly signed for Birmingham in 2008 under Alex McLeish, believe it or not.
No
But
way.
Alex
I did not
McLeish
know that.
said that the deal fell through because Baldy wouldn't sign a confidentiality clause from the Celtic side because he had negotiated his own contract. I think it was 2005, and I think Bayern Munich were sniffing around Bobo Baldé.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich were really interested, and to be fair, he stayed at Celtic with a lot of top European interest around him, negotiated his own contract, and I believe he became Celtic's highest ever earned player at that time. And him and Strachan just...
Yeah, I didn't get on.
And off to the reserves with him. But he ran his contract out until 2009.
Shh. I didn't know that.
So
I would have swore, if you'd said to me, when did he leave, I would have said 2006.
Yeah, 100%, mate. That's I was watching a video on him last night and I was like, there's no way. Like, he went and just reserve football for 3 years.
Holy shit. That would have been the same reserve team as Thomas Gravison.
And Derek Riordan.
No wonder Cy Ferry's fucked up.
But obviously, I'm remembering the better times of him. One thing that I totally kind of blank from my mind is the amount of tense last day battles for the title. Like, the one that stands out obviously is the goal difference one, where Celtic were on top. I can't imagine him losing a title in a worse way than, I think Celtic had won 4-0 and Rangers had won like 6-1.
6-1.
So there was a 5 goal difference swing and they only needed the one. That is brutal, man.
Yep.
Obviously, he won titles though. He was part of the Scottish Cup winning side. He was part of that side that nearly went on to win the UEFA Cup. Was colossal.
Huge.
A cult hero for Celtic, would you say?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. There's not a lot of people that have a bad word to say about him at Celtic.
I think like towards the end though, there was a bit of love-hate relationship though, because he started making a few mistakes and stuff like that. And
yeah, getting old, but he was never known for his pace, and he was getting shown up even more so.
Yeah,
you know, as
because he was very much of that Desai, Bolly kind of mold of centre back, wasn't he? He was very loved a goal as well, didn't he?
Did I scored quite a few? Very aggressive, attacking the ball, you know, and that meant defending the ball as well would be very aggressive.
First Celtic's inaugural Player of the Season award winner as well.
I didn't know that.
First ever, but I think it was 2003, which would make, well, no, actually that wouldn't make sense because of how
you need a job in the football.
I know. Yeah, I'm a producer, man. But yeah, I loved him as well. But it was 50-50, wasn't it? He was either going to do something that would win you the game or lose you the game. Do you know what I mean?
That's
but
it.
High risk, high reward, mate. So Olof Mellberg, and I'd totally forgotten about this guy.
Yeah.
And then the name just like hit me, and I was like, Aston Villa staple. probably even before the Martin O'Neill days, like
was, yeah.
early 2000s.
He was there under George Gregory, I'm pretty sure.
Captain as well.
John Gregory, sorry, not George Gregory. Captain. Played 130, 40 times for Sweden, something like that.
Yeah, played at the 2006 World Cup for them as well.
Yeah.
Would Henrik Larsson have been in that Sweden team? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep. I always just remember him being the first kind of ball playing centre back. I noticed, like, this guy could actually play with the ball at his feet and was pretty good at it. Also, kind of good memories of that early Aston Villa team with Martin O'Neill when he first went there. That was like one of my favourite teams. When he first went there and he took like Didier Agat and Alan Thompson and Chris Sutton with him, and I'm like, oh, this is a revolution. We're going to win the league.
Sean Maloney, Cillian Petrov as well.
Maloney actually done quite well.
Yeah, he did. And then he obviously went and did okay things at Wigan and stuff like that as well, didn't he?
Yeah. I'd say he's an underrated player, but he wasn't. He was just never fulfilled his potential, Sean Maloney. But yeah, I really enjoyed Mellberg, and like
who was like his main centre back partner during his time at like, because I think of like Richard
Martin Larsson.
Yeah, he was the other. Was he a Swedish guy as well? Wasn't he?
Danish,
yeah, Scandinavian though.
I said Martin Larsson, who was in there quite a lot of him, but towards the end of his time, it was Carlos Queller.
Yeah, the Rangers. Because I was thinking maybe Richard Dunn, but that probably came a little bit later.
Richard Dunn was after. Richard Dunn was after. I'm trying to think, because it used to be the midfield used to be quite strong. They had Nigel Reo-Coker.
I remember him. Yeah.
He would just run all day. He was just an absolute workhorse. Out left, you'd have Ashley Young, and then next to Reo-Coker, you'd have Stan Petrov. So they're like chalk and cheese. Petrov wouldn't run all day, but we'd be able to thread that fine through ball. Or
James
whatever.
Milner on the right.
James Milner on the right. Abong Lahore Carew up front. You had Nicky Shore at left back, and
that was the guy that played for Reading originally.
He did.
Or he went later.
One cap for England, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Brad Friedel in goals, and I was going to pass me who was at right back, but that was like a classic 4-4-2 for O'Neill. But Mellberg, to me, just I really enjoyed watching him play football. It was more, I was starting to get more into technical football at this point, and he was a technical defender when you were used to seeing Tony Adams and Martin Keown.
Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of technicality, Paolo Maldini's your next player.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anyone else had them in their 11? I was trying to think of that. Frazee, yeah. Probably best left back of all time. I'm not even entertaining anyone saying Roberto Carlos. Like, it's Roberto Carlos. If you say best left wing back of all time, I'll agree with that all day long.
But I remember on that episode with Frazee, I was mentioning that Paolo Maldini, the span of career, because he played for Milan, he was a one club man for 25 years, which is crazy, right? So I was trying to think of the players at the start, because I think one of the last players he played against was Cristiano Ronaldo, right? So this is actually a quote from Barca TV, but Paolo Maldini says, the best players I played against were Diego Maradona, Ronaldo Nazario, so that would be R9, Cristiano Ronaldo, Michel Platini, right? This is like three generations.
Yeah.
I didn't play against Lionel Messi because he was injured. The interviewer was like, he was lucky, and Paolo Maldini responded, no, I was lucky. I take it probably because he meant, a little bit older in age, at that point. But never seemed to put a foot wrong. Was a staple in that Milan side. He must have won about 4 or 5 Champions Leagues, man. Yeah,
still scoring a minute into Champions League final against Liverpool, and he was like 35 at the time.
And he went on until 2009 after that. So he won the 2007 one, 2003. They must have won one in the 80s. He must have been there when Rijkaard was there.
Yeah, he was. He was part of, I can't remember Sarri's first name.
Maurizio.
He was part of the defence, so it's Tosotto, Costa Curta, Maldini and Baresi. That
Yeah.
was known as the defence, and that was the fact you gave me that they won the league and only conceded 28 goals, or scored 34 and conceded.
Yeah, it was like they scored. Yeah.
So that was part of that defence. Rijkaard was part of that, but that was also the start of the 3 foreigner rule. So Mark Haitley was actually Mark Haitley and Ray Wilkins were the foreigners at Milan before the 3 Dutchmen came in. And I'm pretty sure it was Capello that brought in the Dutchman.
Would Rivaldo have been around that kind of time as well in the 90s?
He was one of my considerations for.
Yeah, very underrated.
Yeah.
Also played for a long span of time, right? I remember him in that 2002 squad. Coming towards the end of his career at that point, admittedly, but
yeah, 2002 World Cup, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Rivaldo. It's just
maybe a young Kaká on the bench as well at that point.
Just insane. Cafu out wide, Roberto Carlos,
Lucio.
They always had like a random goalie. It was Marcos in goals for that.
And then Dida the next World Cup. Yeah, I was
never a fan of Dida. I always thought he was overrated.
Is that because of his interesting
even before
performance
that? It
against
just
Celtic?
never looked like a goalie. Just a bit clumsy and things like that. And then obviously, he got shot at Celtic Park that night. The rest is history.
Greatest defender of all time, Maldini?
In my lifetime, yeah.
Stan the man.
Stan Petrov, yeah. Classy.
Anyone more consistent that you've watched for Celtic over the years?
Scott Brown.
True.
Probably Cal McGregor as well. Did consider McGregor. I'd say the two, I like McGregor more. But if we're just going on favourite players and just not like what they've done for Celtic or that, and just my favourite players.
Do you think like
Stan.
Petrov gets the nod as well because at the time Celtic and Rangers was like, it's getting more competitive now, but for a long period of time during the Scott Brown and Cal McGregor era, you had the whole administration going down into the bottom leagues and then Rangers working their way back up, right?
There's that.
Where in the Petrov years, it was like every league season was a final day. I think I've not seen, when I was looking at that and I was looking at the years of the final days and it went, Celtic Rangers, Rangers Celtic, Celtic Rangers. I don't think I've seen anything as competitive like that apart from the Real Madrid Barcelona years of like 08 to 12. And I think it's more apparent with that as well because the rivalry is so fierce for different reasons obviously in the different sides of of Europe. But I think Petrov probably stands out more because he was part of that Celtic side Celtic had a world-class side, but Rangers also had a world-class side, you know what I mean? Whereas obviously that rivalry's coming back now because Rangers have rebuilt to a point of where, they've won a league in the last couple of years. The league's looking really tasty at the moment in terms of, there's a couple points in it at this point, I think. I don't know if the Rangers have a game in hand or something.
They do, yeah.
So...
it's in Rangers' hands just now.
Yeah. And we're kind of getting to that point where the split's about to happen as well.
One more game.
How many more? One Old Firm?
2.
2. So one at each ground.
No, sorry. There's 3 more games before the split.
Right. And one of them is an Old Firm.
One of them's an Old Firm.
Is that at Ibrox or Parkhead?
Next is Ibrox.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're 2-0 this season so far.
I know when you've needed it the most as well. Like both games you would probably argue Rangers have been the favourites for just because of how Celtic have played. But they've dug it out each time. Xabi Alonso. Interesting. Like obviously had a glitz and glamour career. Was part of that Spanish side that retained the Euros twice and won the World Cup. Played for Real Sociedad, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. Doesn't get much better than that. My first thought when I hear Xabi Alonso, barring obviously his now managerial career at Bayer Leverkusen, is do you remember when he scored a goal from the halfway line in the FA Cup?
It's normally the first thing I think of.
Yeah.
I think he's the most underrated Premier League midfielder of the last 20 years.
Can you believe that Rafa Benitez let him go because he had an obsession of signing Gareth Barry for Liverpool?
Yeah,
and then they never ended up getting Gareth Barry anyway.
City got him. It's just crazy to think about. Gerrard couldn't have done what Gerrard done at Liverpool without Alonso.
Yeah, they lost a sense of control when he left, didn't they? Because I think Benitez was like, Mascherano was going to be that. And then Mascherano was like, oh, well, red card City, here we go.
See if they'd done to Mascherano what Barcelona done and played in this kind of libero sweeper centre-back thing where he can come out with the ball and replace Carragher and actually had Xabi Alonso and Gerrard in there, they'd probably have another few league titles as their name just now.
Am I right in thinking he's won a Champions League at Liverpool, Real Madrid and Bayern?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And he's also
A World Cup.
A
winner. Euros.
Euros. And if you look at the teams for the 08, 2010 and 2012 Spain teams, he's in the lineup. He's not a bench player. He's in that team and he's
alongside
starting.
some heavy competition.
Yeah.
Busquets.
He's keeping players like that sometimes out of the team, you know. I think the argument for many years with the Spain national team was that Busquets obviously was getting into the team because he was part of the Barcelona trio.
Yeah.
And they feel that after 2012 that happened more, and they reckon that it was weakened because they replaced Busquets with Xabi Alonso with Busquets, and Xabi Alonso is a completely different player to Busquets. Plays the same position, different player altogether.
One of the most underrated players of all time?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think he was unlucky never to be voted for a Ballon d'Or, just given the amount of like success wherever he went? Because he was just like a guy that would keep things ticking. He just never got noticed as much.
I think he's I would like to see if he's ever had any points for Ballon d'Or. I definitely think he's bound to be. If Gerrard and Lampard have been in contention, I definitely think he would have been. But yeah, I just think that Ballon d'Or is always geared towards your wingers or your strikers, and for a defensive midfielder to win it, like Kante, 3 seasons ago was the best player in the world, and
Cannavaro was probably the exception.
Yeah, and that was only after winning the World Cup he got
Yeah,
that.
and Modric as well, but that was
default.
Yeah, well, they were just like, we can't give it to Messi and Ronaldo every year.
Yeah, and we fucking hate Lewandowski. So.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God, don't get me started on that. Okay, so on to your number 10s. We'll go with the two wider number 10s first. So Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah, it was between him and Zola.
I think everyone's memory of Dennis Bergkamp, if they've seen Dennis Bergkamp play, is obviously when he missed the penalty against Man United in the F. No, I'm joking. The Bergkamp flick.
Yeah, Bergkamp.
Like,
which one?
The one at Newcastle.
That's not even the most impressive one for me. The one for Holland against Argentina is the more impressive.
Is that the goal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the Dutch commentary on that?
No.
When the guys just literally starts like, Dennis Bergkamp,
yeah.
Dennis Bergkamp, Dennis Bergkamp.
He was, but he was arrogant as well.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And not a lot of people realise this about Dennis Bergkamp. He was so arrogant. Didn't like Ian Wright. Didn't like Thierry Henry when he first came.
Because they stole a bit of his shine?
Pretty much, yeah. And he didn't like... He considered himself the 10 position. And he says, like, if anyone else wanted to come into that team to try and take that 10 position, he wasn't keen on it, you know.
Because you would never say he was the main man at Arsenal.
No.
Like, obviously, he was a very big contributor, but there was obviously a Wright, an Henry.
I think to this day, he's still got the highest amount of assists in Premier League history.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because Fabregas has the one for most in a season. It's 16, I think it is.
I think Bergkamp's sitting at 90 odd assists. So, phenomenal numbers. And people forget, like, he was huge at Inter. He finished third in the Ballon d'Or voting at Inter before he went to Arsenal. It was Bruce Rioch that took him to Arsenal. It wasn't Arsenal Wenger. Like, Bergkamp was already there before Wenger. But finished third in the Ballon d'Or. Finished runner-up, goal scorer at U92, things like that. You know, so could do it on the international stage as well.
Are you surprised that, like, Holland never went on to win a major international tournament, just with, like, not just him, but obviously there were so many.
That early 2000s Holland team with Edgar Davids, Kluivert, Cocu, the De Boer brothers, Van Nistelrooy, Van der Sar, Michael Reisiger, Mark van Bommel, you know, players like, why that never done anything. But you also got to look at the Brazil team. You got to look at the not the Germany team, the Italy team, the France team round about that time. All phenomenal sides.
And to be fair, the 2010 side gave Spain a good go in the 2010 final.
Really did.
Obviously, it was extra time until Iniesta, scored.
I thought you say took one in the chest from
Nigel De Jong.
That was pretty savage. But De Jong was that kind of player, wasn't he?
Aye, just like a bulldog, really, wasn't he? Yeah.
Zola was my other contention for that because he's probably my favourite Premier League player of all time. Just entertainment. Yeah.
Lubomir Moravcik.
Yeah.
Was written off really when he first signed for Celtic, right? He was 33 years old at the time.
Yeah, played in the French league for 10 seasons, not really done much.
The paper said that he'd be too slow, he wouldn't be fit enough. And was a bit of a cult hero and won a couple league titles in the late 90s to early 2000s.
Yeah, his debut he scored 2 against Rangers.
Well, it doesn't get much more better than that to win Celtic fans over.
6-2 his debut. We bought him for 300,000 in Rangers. I think it just spent something like 5 or 6 million on a striker, and we were getting laughed at in the papers, like signing nobodies. And their motto was forever. Well, let's see how you think this worked out. Their motto back then was for every £5 Celtic will spend, we will spend 10. How did that work out for the Rangers?
Yeah, I think they're still feeling the effect of that to this day. But
they are. But if you listen to any interview about him, Larsson's got him in his greatest 11 of all time. So there's a thing called My Greatest 11. It's on YouTube. Henrik Larsson done one. He's in Lubo's in his, and ask anyone about him. They don't know to this day what foot he was. They do not know. And he used to take corners with different ones. So
I swear there's someone else that does that in the modern game. I can't remember who off the top of my head.
Take corners with different ones and take penalties with different ones. Do you know about Andy Brema?
No, Germany?
I don't. So Andy Brema is the left back who scored the winner in Italia 90 in the World Cup final penalty. Left footer, scored it with his right. Yeah, scored it with his right just because he felt like it.
That's almost a troll at that point, right? So best Lubo memory. Because this would have been you starting to get into Celtic, I would imagine, right?
Just maybe 2 or 3 years after I'd started. This is when the obsession started. I think this is when I was heavy into it, and
around a time of where we were coming out of a heavy dominant Rangers kind of era as well, towards that late 90s, early 2000s.
Favorite Lubo moment, I think it wasn't even a specific game. There was a run of about 3 months when Larsson was out of the team, and he pretty much took the team by the scruff of the neck, and he wasn't scoring every game. He'd maybe get a goal, and then next game he'd have 3 assists. Following game he'd have a goal and 2 assists. The next game he'd have 2 goals and an assist. It was the manner of what he was doing. And 1 week it'd be a free. It was, if I was to describe that 3-month period, it was like 3 months of Gareth Bale in that season.
Yeah.
It was free kicks. It was 25-yarders. He was skinning 4 boys and then just dinking it over the keeper. There was all sorts of goals in there.
At not even probably his prime years. Like, this is the latter of his career.
This is a guy that played for Yugoslavia and Slovakia. And he was brought in by Dr. Joseph Venglos, who was the first foreign manager to manage in the Premier League in England. And he came to Celtic in 1987, and he brought in a bunch of nobodies with him. He brought in Reggie Blinker from Sheffield Wednesday. He brought in Lubomir Moravcik. He brought in a bunch, but half these players were absolute ballers.
Kind of similar to what Ange Postecoglou did when he came in at Celtic.
Yeah, a little bit. Just spending a little bit less money, that's all.
Yeah. Well, just the inflation of the game, really, innit?
That's it. That's all it'll be.
Right, we've saved the best 2 for last. So, up first, your second favourite player of all time, I believe.
Yeah.
Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You bring out the video of him playing with that classical music up all the time.
I'd go say I watch that every 3 months or so. Yeah.
What Zidane did you prefer? Did you prefer the Juve one or the Real Madrid one? Because I think they did have a bit of difference.
The France one.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Not Real Madrid probably. I've seen more of him at Real Madrid.
I think, like, I would say that he had more clutch moments at Real Madrid. Obviously, the likes of the obvious one being the goal at Hampden. But for me, from what I've heard, and I've never seen him play for Juventus because it was a bit before my time, apparently was an absolute demon to play against. And that would have been around the same kind of time that France won the 98 World Cup. I take it he was a big influence on that.
So here's a funny thing. So Zidane joined Juventus in 96 and had the absolute flying start to his career, had the best 2 seasons you could imagine. He was assists, passing, accuracy, top at everything. Going into the 98 World Cup, he'd probably had the worst 6 months of football he'd had at Juventus. And like there was actually a serious question whether he was going to be picked for the World Cup. Took him, obviously the rest is history and all that. Went to Real Madrid, came out the blocks absolutely flying, and then for about a season and a half disappeared again. Just wasn't great. And then towards the end he was really good for Real Madrid again. So going into the 98 World Cup wasn't at his best form. His best form was actually in a France shirt at big international tournaments. Euro 2000 was probably his best. Everyone goes on about 98 World Cup, but Euro 2000 I'd say is his best tournament.
The final was absolutely crazy. That it was golden goal back then as well.
David Trezeguet,
yeah, who Alan Main has played against, as we found out. Bit of a crazy start there. Do you miss golden goal?
Yeah, I do. I don't miss silver goal.
No.
Celtic were. I'm pretty sure that's how Porto won.
Yeah.
Silver goal. But golden goal would just put the pace up
on edge.
Right. I don't know how after running about for 90 minutes the pace of a game goes up.
I know, right?
You know,
it's just the stress, though, isn't it? Like,
but I remember that was the tournament of all tournaments. That was the best showcase for football at Euro 2000, and I'm pretty sure Copa America 2000 had a really strong showing as well. So it was like the birth of like modern football, essentially. The late 90s, getting away from the drinking culture of football and getting into the modern athlete of football.
Yeah. Sports science was becoming more of a thing.
Sports science, then the global coverage of the game and things like that. Your footballers are becoming role models for what they look like, not how they play, and modelling contracts and everything else that comes with football, you know. And I think Euro 2000 was the birth of that. But yeah, golden goal, I do miss that.
I'd also say it was a time where people appreciated international football more. Because I think nowadays, because club football is such a commercial thing, anytime an international break comes up, the first thing that I think even is, fuck's sake, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah, it's the one thing that is ridiculous. Why they have international friendlies 3 weeks into a new season, I will never know. There's no point.
No.
There is literally no point of having them. But yeah.
Your interest had a bit of a renaissance recently just because Scotland have been doing well?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, I think because the South America teams haven't had the strongest of sides for the last 10 years. I know Argentina have won the most recent World Cup.
It's Brazil, England tonight, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, I never knew. I guess we'll look at that after we're done here. But like, for example, Brazil have probably been underperforming for a good 15 years now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd say so. Since the Kaká days, like
my ideal final for the World Cup for the last however long has been, I want to see Brazil versus Argentina. I wanted to see it the most in 2014 because it was in Brazil. And there probably would have been a lot of trouble had that final went down, you know. Yeah. But not that I wanted to see that, obviously, but I'm a fan of intense rivalry. Like, I remember the Copa America final 2007, where Argentina looked like they were just going to blitz through Brazil. And was it Junior Baptiste?
Yeah.
Absolutely scored like a hat-trick. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, they just blew them out of the water.
One of the questions I thought you were going to ask me if we're sticking football journalist style, I thought you were going to ask me what was the best atmosphere, right? And see, I've been to hundreds of games of football in my life. Best atmosphere I've ever witnessed was the pub for Ghana versus Uruguay.
Oh yeah, the Luis Suarez. Yeah.
That's the best atmosphere. I've never seen a pub willing a team on to win so much in my life, and then they got beat in the shootout, and it was just gutting. And that will stick to me because that was my first proper pub World Cup. You remember your first pub World Cup, like, and there must have been about 200 people in the pub going absolutely crazy at this big screen because Suarez handballed it and then they got kicked out on penalties, and Suarez,
John missed the penalty.
well,
didn't
it
he?
was the camera panned to Suarez on the
And he's
sideline
celebrating,
yeah. So,
And I think we kind of had that recently in the last World Cup with not that situation, but the fondness for Morocco to go on and do as well as they could.
Yeah. I didn't want them to win it, but I wanted them to get a final.
Yeah, I mean, well, the first African team to get to the semi-final of the World Cup.
Yeah.
You know, some good players in there as well. Hakimi, Amrabat.
Bunu, the goalie.
Yeah. There was another guy as well that was in there that Mourinho said he was going to be one of the best players in the world one day.
Amrabat, another good international player.
No, seriously though, like the thing is like you know, marked Mbappe out of the game. You know, it's no easy task. You know, apart from Kyle Walker, I've never really seen anyone been able to match him in a foot race. Okay, mate. Last but not least,
Henrik Larsson. What else is there to say about him?
What does that player mean to you? Because you're a massive Celtic fan. There's probably no bigger hero in modern Celtic history than Henrik Larsson.
Right. To put it in, this is the only way I can describe it, right? I actually genuinely get a warm feeling when I'm watching Henrik Larsson videos. I genuinely get like a nice feeling in my belly. It's so strange. And I don't know if it's because it takes me back to my childhood or what, or like there's nostalgia there, but I genuinely, like, this is going to sound like the weirdest analogy in the world, right? But you know when you've had a bowel movement, your belly feels really, really nice afterwards.
Okay, I'm trusting the process here, but go on.
But you get quite a nice feeling in your stomach after you've done your business. I genuinely get that feeling in my stomach when I'm watching like Henrik Larsson goals for Celtic. I've got a DVD of 232 goals, I think it is, he scored for Celtic, of every single one of them, you know, and I could watch that on repeat, constant for days, and it just wouldn't get bored.
Do you think there'll ever be another Celtic player in your lifetime that could compare for your love?
Not even close. Not even close. You could get somebody who signed for Celtic tomorrow at 15 years old, who played for us for the next 25 years, who could score 500 goals for us, who will not give me that feeling, because he done it against a really strong Rangers team and he broke their hearts multiple times. And you look at how much they respect him, and that's how much that means more to me, how much they actually respect him. There's not a lot of Rangers fans that have got a bad word to say about him because they know how good a football player he was.
Is there a Rangers equivalent to you?
Not in that high regard, but I'd hold Lorenzo Amoruso up there. I thought he was fantastic. In terms of like people with the club of Rangers, I think Alan McGregor deserves a massive mention, because obviously I'm not a personal fan of the guy, but I really just think that for what he done initially as a young guy, then went away and experienced it and realised the grass isn't always greener, and came back and just has done what he's done for the last 15 years for Rangers. And you won't hear me praise Rangers players often, but I think he's one of the ones that actually deserves it.
Favorite Larsson moment? If you could, here's a good question. If you could delete it from your memory and experience it for the first time again, what Henrik Larsson goal would you experience for the first time again?
The first header against Porto.
Euphoria? Mm-hmm. Is that what made it? Because it was so tense, man. I remember watching that final myself, and it's one of the most back and forth finals you'll see, and obviously very evenly matched. Obviously, you know, the Porto side had, am I right in thinking, had Quaresma left at this point, or is he still playing for them?
No, they had Nuno Capuccio out there. Deco was playing at Ricardo Carvalho.
Paulo Ferreira, perhaps, as well?
Yeah, Victor Baia. Manish was their player they played up front. Derlei was their Derlei. He was their main threat that whole season. But yeah, that first goal against Porto. No. The goal against Boa Vista that put us to the final, I think. it was such a sweaty, intense, hard game.
Yeah.
And we were getting nothing out of that game, and only he could have scored that
Yeah,
goal.
one of those games where you don't see it happening, and then that makes it 10 times better when it does happen. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What was it like when you seen him score for Barcelona at Parkhead? Were you as bothered by it than me? I didn't hold it against him, but I just found it a really upsetting moment.
No.
Particularly because it had happened so soon after he left.
Actually, it's weird. I remember being in the living room with my dad watching it. And I can't remember. I think my dad said something like that was always going to happen, you know. And it's like, yeah, just a bit surreal. But I remember my pal Dino. I'm actually going to get Dino on once we need a Celtic episode of this Football Journal soon, like I'm telling you. But he says that he remembers people actually booing, and it's like he couldn't understand it. There was people. He was at the game, remembers people booing. He was like, "I stood and clapped," like, and it's like, why would you boo somebody for one goal when they've given you a 250, almost 250 before that to cheer? You know? It just doesn't make any sense. He didn't celebrate. You know, if he was away doing an Adi Bayard or something like that, it's a different story.
If anything, it looked like it like killed him inside to actually do it.
Yeah, I don't think he particularly enjoyed playing against Celtic, but I think he said before that
was the only time that he came back, though, I believe.
The only time he came back, and he says that he didn't know how to experience it because being in that stadium's special in itself, but he's not there for Celtic, he's there for someone else, but he still feels the atmosphere because he's a Celtic fan, you know, so it must be a right strange experience for him. But he also done the business at Man United and done the business at Sweden as well, you know. People forget he was he finished third place in USA 94, you know, and he was in the team. He was playing and stuff like that when he was at Feyenoord.
Was Feyenoord you signed him for? I was thinking PSV, but that was R9 when it. Not that he signed for Celtic, but like
he was Feyenoord and Helsingborgs.
Helsingborg, yeah. I wonder where his son is a striker as well, isn't he? Jordan,
playing in Turkey,
yeah. Because I suppose that was too good to be true to think he would end up coming to play for Celtic. And
well, it gets floated every summer, the rumour, and obviously it's weird because he's a Glaswegian, Jordan. But he's Swedish, and he's like,
because he would have been born when he was.
He was born there, and there's like pictures of Larsson in his Celtic kit with his son in his arms with a Celtic kit. But there's always the rumours, and Larsson got asked, and he's like, "What do you think?" And he was like, "Well, he's already by this stage in Jordan Larsson's career, he's already outscored his dad." But his dad's a bit of a different animal. Yeah. You know.
Probably different status as well because of the clubs that he's played at. Celtic, Barcelona, Man United.
To sum Larsson up, you've got to be pretty special to be considered Ibrahimovic's hero.
Yeah. And Ronaldinho obviously said he was the best player he'd ever played with. Yeah. No, like you said, no one's got a bad word to say about him, even his fiercest rivals. But, mate, that has been 2 hours and 20 minutes.
That's crazy, yeah.
Enjoyed it? Enjoyed being a guest on the Northeast Corner?
Yeah, it's been different being this side of the mic. I have actually, it's less for me to have to think about. You know, I don't have to keep us on course.
Yeah.
But it's because it's me and you, we don't have to keep on course.
No, exactly,
as much,
yeah.
You know, but it's been good.
And this is why I kind of like the audio format, because it allows me to not have to overthink.
Yeah, it'll probably be on YouTube in 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, no, next Friday at 5 p.m. I've got corporate stuff to do, and then I'll play the outro and we can take a chill pill. And right, okay, so here we go. Thank you for listening to episode 111 of, I was about to say the Football Journals there, the Northeast Corner. Thank you very much, Lee, for coming on. I will see you soon for a Football Journals episode. Yeah. If you enjoyed today's episode, give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and on the YouTube. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And we will see you for episode 112, which will be a photographer very soon.